Welcome to our Poetry Town Council meeting for our beautiful town of Poetry, Texas on this Tuesday night, February 21st, 2023. We welcome you and want you to feel heard, valued, informed, and connected to your town and its council. We welcome diversity of opinion and want minority views as well as majority views to be heard. We also appreciate mutual respect despite opposing view. Your opinions, suggestions, and comments in favor of or against a topic are welcome. However, your questioning and interrogations will not be acknowledged. This is a town council meeting and not a courtroom. At this time, I need to remind the public that disruption of this meeting may be considered a criminal offense, according to Texas Penal Code 3813 and 4205. You must be signed up to speak during the meeting and stay on topic according to state law. To preserve the order and decorum of the meeting, any person who makes profane, slanderous, threatening remarks or becomes disruptive during the meeting will be asked to leave or may be escorted out by a peace officer and given a citation. Our City Secretary, Jana Shelton, will now take roll call.
Good evening. Mayor Sinkovich.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Tom Anderson.
Here.
Brian Vincent.
Here.
Council Member Simeon White.
Here.
Council Member Terry Fowler.
Here.
And I'm missing, who am I missing? Oh, sorry. Mike Jaffe.
Here.
And quorum is confirmed. After 21 months, I haven't led in the pledge or prayer, but I was told, suggested that I might do that tonight, so if you'll stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the invocation. Father, you are so good, and it is by the prompting of your Holy Spirit that we're even here. And I thank you for the opportunities that you've bestowed upon each of us to be tested and tried, to be found in whatever way that you see fit. And Father, we just pray that despite opposing view, that we might love you first and learn to love each other more fully. And Lord, we just pray that as we embark on all these things, that first and foremost, that we'll honor you above all. We love you, we praise you. It's in Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Okay, so under items of community interest, we want to have a special thanks to Sherry Vinson for typing up some minutes. Thank you, that's so helpful. She does a great job. We also the town is taking candidates for those who might want to voluntarily annex into the town until March 31st, 2023. You can email by contact@poetrytexas.org for more information. We have had some inquiry in that. We want to have a special thanks to Mike Tillinghast and Kevin Sinkovich for helping us install, I think, 17 or 18 signs on Friday. So thank you so much. It's been months with the 2 rains we had last week. The ground was like butter, so it was great. So not so much during the heat of the summer. So just today, I was sent a proclamation by Governor Greg Abbott. So it does include Hunt County, so therefore I'm going to announce this. Pursuant to his powers as governor of the state of Texas, Greg Abbott has issued the following: a proclamation amending the disaster proclamation issued on February 4th and declaring a disaster for Anderson, Bastrop, Blanco, Burleson, Burnett, Caldwell, and it goes on, Hunt County. So they've included Hunt County in the adverse weather event. So just so you're aware of that. And that does allow certain things in governmental help to be pursued. Then also, I would like to, if you have questions for our current candidates, you can email those questions to our new city secretary, Jana Shelton, at secretary@poetrytexas.org. She is collecting those, and is 4 of us or 5 of us are currently running. We have to stay out of all that, but she will be collecting your questions. Okay. All right, then moving on to financial reports. It's January end 2023. So we have a beginning bank balance of $46,014.17, or excuse me, 75 cents. An ending balance of $42,051 or 51.32 cents. We have had some deposits from a public information request, franchise fees from our solid waste vendors. We had some office supplies purchased. Just a couple more or 3 more FEC reimbursement checks came through. A legal fee check, insurance, and of course our utility reimbursement to the church here, and then of course a Kaufman County project. And the financial, because we do have, we've had our new city secretary, 3-4 weeks now. It's freed me up to be able to do a little bit more. I was able to catch up on the QuickBooks and be able to do some of the financial, we've got our balance sheet, our profit and loss. So on our balance sheet, our fixed assets of $151,758.87, and matching the total liabilities and equity of the same. Current checking account as of February 16th, $29,329.78 after all of that. And then our profit and loss, I used to work for the state hospital, and they only pay once a month. So that third, fourth week, you're scraping the barrel. And so for the town, we receive revenues quarterly. And so here it is, mid-February. So a lot of our revenues come in end of March, so that you're aware, this is heading into the last part of this quarter. So we do have kind of a negative picture there with all the bills that have come in. So our any comments from council on that?
Thank you for the more detail.
Well, thanks to Jana covering the bases. I actually don't mind the financials. I actually enjoy it, but I'm really glad to have her help. So. Yes, sir, I corrected that. And yes, I corrected that. So 2023. Okay, so on next we have Secretary's report from Jana. Ms. Jana Shelton.
Yes, good evening, everyone. On my report, I'll just lay out what we've done basically for the last probably 3 or 4 weeks. I got in the office and discovered that all the postings needed to be completed, and we got that done as soon as we could. Without a city secretary, it's hard to do postings for elections. So I caught up on that and also reviewed the election calendar to make sure that we are good on all our dates. Also, we've been working on 2 council meetings. We had 2, one regular and one special, I believe. So I hit the ground running, learning how to do the packets, which, once you've done packets, they're packets. They're all the same. So, did the packets and just kind of got in the office and looking at some of the filing situation, and there's a lot to do. So without having a secretary lately, there's certain ways that you have to file things, and so all the information is there. It's just going to have to be put into binders. And when I say that, I mean the minutes are all there, the packets are all there, but we'll create that binder for the minutes and agendas and get those in. And so for a town that's just been incorporated, you're in really good shape. Everything's right there in the office, and Mayor Sinkovic has done everything she can to make me comfortable, and it's a small area, so everything's going really good. And then moving on to the election, as you guys know, we do have enough candidates for an election. The candidates include, for mayor, we have Haley Dennis and Tara Sinkovic. For council, we have Thomas Anderson, Jonathan Blake, Ivy Campbell, Terry Fowler, Mike Jaffe, Jennifer McFarland, Patrick Smith, Chad West, and Simeon White. So it's very exciting. I love to see that many people interested in government. It's really a great thing to see. So on Friday at 1 p.m., we'll have the drawing for a place on the ballot. You're welcome to come witness or watch, and once we will have a person that's not connected to the election do the drawing, and then once we get those names in order, we'll let Hunt County and Kaufman County know that will be the order for our ballot. So I'm really excited to get involved in this, and I think everything's going really good.
Did you want to mention about Dr. Haran at the school said?
Yes, and we are going to have a Meet the Candidate night. I don't think we have a date for sure yet, but it will be in April. Is that correct? Yes. It will be in April, and everyone's invited to attend. We're going to ask, as previously mentioned, we're going to ask for questions from the citizens, and then we'll have certain questions that we'll work on together. And when I say we'll work on, that's Brian Vincent that's going to help me out on that. So that's...
Brian's the only one up here who's not running again, so
That's
that
right.
makes sense. And so between the three of them, they can figure it out. So, okay, thank you so much, Jana. Okay, on the consent agenda, we have the amended minutes for November 15th, regular meeting 2023.
I'd like to move them to the regular agenda.
All of them or just that one?
That's the only one
Okay. All right, we have a motion to move the minutes of November 15th to the regular agenda. Is there a second? We have a motion and it's seconded. All those in favor? Okay. And we'll call that A. Okay, how about the minutes for December 13th, 2023? Okay, so is there a motion to accept those as written?
Of course, it should be December 2022.
I'm sorry, did I say?
Well, I mean, that's how
Oh,
it's
yeah.
written on the
Yeah.
deal
It should
there.
say December 2022, you're right. It's correct on the actual minutes.
Hearing no objection, I'll move that we accept them as written.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion by Vincent, seconded by Fowler. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, the minutes from January 17th, 2023.
Make a motion, we move these to agenda also, please.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and all those in favor? And that passes unanimously. That will be item B. Okay? All right, and the minutes from January 23rd, that is a typo there, 23rd, 2023, the special meeting.
Hearing no objection, I move that we accept these minutes as written.
Is there a second? Okay, we have,
Yeah.
okay, we have a motion by Vincent, second by Fowler, to accept the minutes from January 23rd, 2023 meeting. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to the regular agenda. Item A is the amended minutes for November 15th.
Yeah, I just moved this.
I don't know why I didn't catch this the first time, but I know we've discussed how our minutes are gonna be written, and it seems that we.
Hey, Terry, I can't hear you, please.
I don't know. It seems like we took the approach of verbatim at first, but now we're going into some kind of interpretive type minutes, and I just dislike the wording on number 3, where it says Citizen Patrick Smith warns council that he will take his concerns to the courthouse. That almost sounds like he threatened to sue us, and I don't remember that from the meeting, so when I reviewed it, his comment was something to the fact that he had a lot to say, and if he didn't get them all out, that we would probably see his comments in courthouse, and I was thinking because this is a legal document, him being an attorney, that, yeah, I really need to hear my concerns, because you might find yourself in the courthouse. So I'd really like to scratch out that he warned council, because I didn't take it that way. Now, if council took it that way, that's fine, but I didn't take it that way.
So replace warned with stated? How would you like it rephrased?
Well, and that comes into question the whole minutes deal. I mean, we've discussed and discussed and discussed, and I've never been a fan of the verbatim, and I definitely don't like interpretive. I like the meat and potato approach that we discussed this, and here's the vote, and let the recordings be the deciding factor if there's ever a question. So, you know, if we're going interpretive style now, I guess maybe that just needs to be quoted, that Patrick Smith stated, and we can pull out the wording from the minutes. But I didn't feel that as a threat, but when I see this, that he warns council, well, I'm like, well, I don't remember him threatening to sue me, but
Did you go back and look at the video?
I did.
Mhm. Okay.
And he's here, he could probably speak for himself, but it just, he made the point that I have a lot to say, and if I'm not heard, you will probably hear my comments in court, or my thoughts in court, and I took that as, well, someone gets injured or somebody, they're gonna go back to this document, and the things that you are not listening to could come back to bite you in the butt, but that's why we have council to vote on this, and it's really whatever y'all say, but as, I would make the edit that we strike that totally.
Strike the entire sentence, Terry?
I would be fine with just striking that sentence, that he warns council that his concerns will be taken to the courthouse.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So I move to amend that we strike the sentence starting with warns and ending with them.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Fowler, seconded by Anderson, to strike the sentence by Citizen Patrick Smith, warns council that he will take his concerns to the courthouse if he's not allowed to express them. Strike that from the minutes. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, any other comments on the minutes from November 15th?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Fowler, seconded by Anderson, to approve the amended minutes, all of those of November 15th, 2022. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, now item B, the minutes from January 17th, I believe.
That's correct.
Okay. And we did have, I think, Councilmember Anderson was really good at editing. He said we need to edit the third page. The number amount is from the top of the page, 870546, it's actually 861546 is the correct amount.
State the total again.
On the top of page 3,
Yeah, but what's the total?
861546.
Second line down.
That's it.
So that's the revised total?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, it's
Just a-
correct math.
It was a typo.
So which
All
number
right.
am I changing, this number or this number?
This
Is
number
there
right
anything
there.
else?
Okay, got it.
That's the math.
Mike, did you have something?
Yeah, so we have that amendment, and then I have one just below that, Tara, on, it's labeled 10 on mine. Discuss and take action on construction items regarding new town hall site. And sort of the same argument that Terry made, but on the other side of the conversation. starting with citizen Chad McFarland approves of the financial discussion. To me, that doesn't capture the essence of what Chad said that night. That was the night that he got interrupted and got pretty frustrated, and you, Tara, extended an apology to him. But what he said before he lost his composure was that he was happy to see that the council was getting some financial reports, but he was concerned that we didn't have year-to-date expenditures against the budget. And then the conversation ended there. So I don't think leaving it at Chad McFarland approves of the financial discussion captures the essence of what he was saying. But again, to Terry's point, and it's not the agenda item, I'd like us to some point revisit the whole minutes thing, because depending on who's typing, and I'm not implying there's any effort to bias it one way or the other, but if I hear it and type it, I'm going to type it one way. If somebody else hears it and types it, they're going to do it another. And so I think we're going to run into these little nuances. But
Well, I do know that we had a citizen who complained that they weren't in the minutes, and then, so the thrust of it was to try and do a synopsis of everything that was said. That's a really hard challenge for anyone. I know I've done the minutes. We've had numerous people do the minutes, and it is a hard challenge. It is not verbatim. It is not. It's just kind of a summary of, you know.
well, I did go back today as part of another project I was on and read nearly all of our minutes from the beginning of time. And in the beginning, they read like novels. I mean, it's like, and Tara took a breath, and Mike raised his arm, and I mean, they're exhaustive. And now they're, you know, they're getting narrower. But again, Chad brought this up to me, and he did not want to be on record as saying he approves of the financial discussion, period. If we put that, we need to put the rest of what he said was, but he was concerned that we did not have the council members' accurate information on funds spent to date against the budget.
So what would, first off, I think this would be a great topic for the forums so that we can hash out some stuff and not waste, not use the time we have here. But what would you like to, what, do you want to just strike that whole sentence? What's the amendment that you would?
Yeah, let's keep it simple. Let's just strike it. So I make a motion in paragraph 10, or whatever that number is meant to be, citizen Chad McFarland, we strike from the word citizen Chad McFarland approves of the financial discussion, period. So that we simply remove that from the minutes. And that would be in addition to Tom's edit on the financial number.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jaffe, seconded by White, to amend not only number 9, the second line, the numerical to 861546, but also item 10, striking the sentence regarding citizen Chad McFarland. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, moving on item 1, discuss and take action on contract agreement with Kaufman County Election Division with addendums. So last time we did not have the addendums, and so they have provided them forthwith. Kaufman County does have quite a few entities that they're having to consider, and so we do have the addendums now. It shows that our itemized 75% that's due would be $550 for the cost of the election for the town of Poetry. So is there any discussion? Is there any discussion?
And if we pass this, it's passing with the other document that we had last month, right?
That's correct.
This is just an addendum.
Mm-hmm. And they have to, of course, you know, provide, this is the draft, they will provide once they've, you know, heard from all the entities that are having an election, they'll be able to know the final version.
So a motion to pass this, does that give you allowance to spend $550, or is that a second motion?
Well, Well, they haven't billed us yet. I think they're just giving us an estimate.
Well, don't we have to pay that now, just be on the ballot?
I think on the, yes, we do, but I think last time we just paid the 500. But if you would go ahead and approve it tonight, that would make a lot of sense. So, yes, in this contract, it's saying that you would allow myself and Tom or the other co-signatory to go ahead and write this check for $550 to get that contract going.
Are we going to have to come back and vote on a final version once they finish this draft, or is this going to be good enough?
We might put it on a consent agenda, right? Right, Jana, don't you think?
You can do that. There's not really going to be any changes from the draft to the final. The exhibits were what we were waiting on, so
Green security.
there shouldn't be any major changes. If there was, we would bring it back to you.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract. Is there citizens on that?
There, on number 1, the Kaufman, no, is that correct? There's no? Wow,
I
okay.
move to approve the contract with Kaufman County and the addendums and allow our signatories to pay the $550 deposit.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Fowler, seconded by Benson, to approve the contract with addendums and the $550 agreement contract amount. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, going on to item 2, discuss and take action on the right-of-way fee schedule for blank amount and newspaper publishing for the right-of-way ordinance. So last time we passed the right-of-way ordinance as presented by Attorney Berman. We had some discussion, but we did not, a whole nother issue to talk about the fees. Secretary Jana did supply a sample. It's all over the place on what municipalities charge for their fees. I know, I think Mr. Seat had provided us a permit application, just, adding the new address and just a few little changes. It's a really nice form. But as far as how much the town of Poetry wants to collect, that's up to council to, I guess, to discuss.
Now, I vaguely remember, Tara, when we talked about this last time, I don't know if it was a citizen or somebody up here said that this is not a process we can make money on, that it has to be only recovery of costs that we incur to run the program. So in other words, if we have to have an inspector or if we have to do something, we can charge back the time, but I vaguely remember hearing something about we're not allowed to generate revenue off of this.
Yeah, I think that was Mr. Berman. That would be our legal counsel.
Okay, so do we believe him, or?
Well, if we don't, we should stop paying him. So I would say that is probably good counsel.
Well, I guess, and I say that only to say, like on application, $500, I don't know, is that one where we can just charge what we want? Or?
All of these numbers seemed high to me as a matter of not having it as a profit-generating area. And our philosophy behind this for setting these in place in the beginning was to make sure that we understand where the infrastructure is for the health and safety of our citizens,
Right.
not as a profit-making venture. So I think all of these numbers are high for what our purpose is.
Well, and I think Terry brought up that there are services out there that companies hire out to do the inspections and things, and they kind of keep us from having to train up our own inspectors. And I don't know what their rates are, but to me, if some of these categories are going to require their services, then we base it on their rate. So if they charge, $200 an hour or whatever, we want to recover that plus a little bit, but.
And I don't know, Bruce is here.
Bruce
He could
is here.
speak. When we was talking about that, I brought up the third party Bureau Veritas is popular. I don't know if Jenna and them use them or not, but I don't know that it's for right-of-way inspections. They might have that division too, but this is strictly for right-of-way. So I don't know who's the overseer of right-of-way construction.
Ms. Jana, since you have 21 years of experience, could you shed some light on some of these things for us?
Right.
Please.
And you are correct. If the attorney's telling you, you know, you don't really want to make money off of it, then you really don't. But you do need to put a money amount to that fee, and, you know, anywhere from 100 to 150. You know, I wouldn't, if you're comfortable with 50, but you need to pay for your office personnel, because they're going to be handling that permit. They have to fill out the paperwork, keep up with the permits. So I would be comfortable with anywhere from 50 to 100.
So
It's up to
that's
you
based
guys.
on your experience at
Yes.
Crandall or wherever?
Yes.
I see.
Green security.
I apologize.
Because as Councilman Fowler said, you know, it is based on what the company's going to charge you,
Well,
or
and
what
is
they're
it,
doing
it's
out there.
fee-based.
It's based on what they're doing out there, actually. So there's
Yeah.
different types of work in the right-of-way.
So permits in big cities are based on the total project cost.
right,
And I didn't know this wasn't a money-making deal, because it seems like there's a lot of money made off of permits.
Yeah.
If SMU throws up a $30 million permit, building, it's off of that value. You can't tell me that it takes that much to run the program, but I don't think us as council, our desires right now is to make money off of it. So we kind of need a guesstimate from you what it would take to file a permit. And like, is this a 3-hour process?
It's not a 3-hour process. It's maybe a 20-minute process or an hour.
But then there's follow-up too,
Sure.
so.
You have to follow up and make sure the permit's issued and keep up with the file and when it's completed and, you know, so what you're seeing in the bigger cities, and Beer Veritas too does that on the
Yeah.
cost of the project.
That's right.
And then it's a percentage of the cost of the project. But you guys are just starting out, so I don't.
I found it interesting that they spent a lot of time detailing small cell and, you know, 1 to 5 nodes, and then each additional node as a separate item. Small cell is, you're gonna be blanketing the town with towers and equipment for each node. You're talking about for 5G at that point. And 5G doesn't go through walls very well, so you have to have like trees, which is what we have more of. So in order to get really good 5G out here, not the fake 5G that shows up on our phones right now, I think that whole section could be basically scrapped at this point. It looked like they were looking to make money off of cellular providers at that point.
Wasn't the intent of the permit conversation so we can track who's in our right-of-way for future?
And for safety.
And for safety, right. So, they're using, it seems to me that our spectrum is going overhead, and they're using FEC's right-of-way already. Or Encores in that area. And then Monster, I guess, they came through the ground prior to us doing any of this. And that's really the essence of this, is we're trying to capture some data for future councils. So I'm not for these extremely high prices, but I do want the city to be able to afford our
But
time.
I think that we would need to know what we're going to be charged before we could actually settle on a rate. So,
well, likewise, Brian, what we're going to do, so we want to record the fact that the project is going on, right? We want to document who's working, but are we going to do an inspection to make sure it's done according to something, and so they would have to turn in other documents, or is it simply a filing process initially where we're just recording, we're documenting, recording, and recovering the cost of doing that, of anybody doing work in our town, and then later, as we grow to understand this, we can,
well, I think we should have documentation of your build plan, so that we would know if it's going to interfere with any current infrastructure, and then we have an as-built after it's complete, so that we would know for the next utility that comes along whether or not, and this is particularly as it applies to in-ground rather than aerial items, but we want to make sure that nobody's drilling through somebody else's cables or telephone poles, which I've actually seen, in order to, run their service. So,
Would the PUC have some kind of say-so standard operating guidelines that we control?
yes.
So as far, to Mike's point, are we gonna inspect it? I don't think the city's set up to even start that process, so I think a lot of that's gonna be, they have best practices and standards that they have to follow.
Unless we wanted to hire an inspector and then,
Could-
you know.
Could we just say maybe a $50 fee, permit fee for now for the paperwork, and then if there was a subsequent inspection required, then the exact cost of that inspection would be, just be carried through?
Absolutely.
Can we just leave it at that, maybe something simple for now? And then we can always amend if needed.
So we're talking about $50 for the permit application?
Is there a motion? There are no citizens, amazingly.
Well,
Or-
I would want to go and pass it as a, rather than line by line. There might be other edits to be made, but is that what we're talking about? Is
Kind of just a
$50 for the
straight fee,
application?
make it simple, or small town, just a straight fee or something? Okay. Okay, do we have a motion for that, maybe?
What is the third-party plan review? I didn't get it now. It so happens I used to work for a company that did engineering inspections for telephony systems. So I wasn't in the field, but I was in the office, but I have not heard that terminology before. Third-party plan review.
Well, I guess from just the basic, they would hire a third party to review that whole network, and if it interfered with any of the other infrastructure instead of doing it in-house.
Right.
So that would be the Bureau of Veritas or the other third parties that would review that whole document.
But scale makes a difference in that matter.
It does.
So, I mean, it
Well,
says
to a-
$25
to a
per sheet.
To a degree, yeah.
Yeah, are we covering 100 miles on a sheet, or are we covering 10 miles on a sheet, or are we covering 150 feet? So scale's gonna matter. So, I mean, I think it would be wise if we had some, I think at that point, if third-party review, plan review means what I think it means, then $25 a sheet is dramatically undercharging.
But that could be revisited, to Tara's point, if we just do the $50 for the permitting, and any fees or any inspections, however you want, inspections and reviews would be charged at cost.
Okay.
So-
So,
Tara, can we, I'd like to suggest that we consider inviting Bruce up to the mic to, I'd be interested in hearing him if he's willing comment on, so he's doing work in the town
Come on
of
up,
Poetry
Bruce.
currently.
So
In
Bruce
a
Seed's
conservative
expert in the
world,
field.
what would you expect to have to do permit-wise? And is it per pole, per inch of cable, per project? And what would you expect to submit to a town like us?
So probably, I would say probably a permit fee. I don't know if that much, but like vendors, cities that we pay to do permitting, they'll do that and we just reimburse it.
There we go. Permit fee, yeah, there's certain places do permit fees.
So would it be like, so you're installing internet all over Poetry, so it would be what, like one permit for that project, even though it has multiple phases, et cetera?
Nah, probably not with us because we have multiple projects, so it'd be, each project will do the individual permit, however we
Okay.
permit it.
What
Most
do you mean
of
by
it-
projects?
There's different sections, usually it's about, we only go up to 256 passings per project, but we don't go that high on them. We keep them pretty low for future build. We can add on later on.
So do you know how many projects Spectrum has in Poetry right now?
What's left,
No,
Well,
total,
total,
like
it's
from
what,
Total.
half a dozen or?
well, most of us, so, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think there's 6 total.
So that would, in your world, that would be 6 different permits.
6 different permits, but part of it, 2 of them are done. Third one's about to be done.
Yeah.
And you
Well, I'm
got,
not wanting to retroactive.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how the permitting
but the
works.
3 left, there's still 3 left, so it'll be each one. I know Monster's planning to do more. And the inspection part, we don't do too much inspection, but Kaufman County does. want it after we finish. They want it as-built. They want to know how deep we were, certain parts where we are underground. They had different specs for Kaufman County, and they have told us that they want us to give us an as-built of what we've done for them inside the district.
Do they also ask for a build plan? What you're planning to build before the building starts?
We submit that during the permit process. We give them an outline, use a Google Earth snip of every street, and they'll give a color key code to tell you if this is underground, aerial. It's pretty basic, but when they come back to as-built, they want to know in the right-of-way if we're underground, how deep we were, how deep underneath the road, because they do require to be deeper underneath the roads for Kaufman County. Hunt County, 36 inches deep. And then you need to be on the back of the right-of-way. So
we're spitballing up here, but do y'all have guidelines by the Public Utility Commission on your installations?
no, just the standard National Electrical Code standards.
Does FEC have any?
FEC, yes, on the pole line, when we're attached to their poles, they want, most of the standard, safety standards is 40 below neutral, or any lowest power point, unless it comes to secondary, and we be 12 inches from secondary. That's the 120 volts for everybody that know. Encore, same thing. Now Trinity Valley, their specs are higher, they want 43 inches.
And so they're probably not coming back and inspecting you, but if they're servicing a line, they see it, they will make y'all move it.
Oh, they're inspecting.
They are inspecting?
Yeah, Encore takes a little bit longer. They do post-inspections. So anything that was existing, the permit process for us is a little bit different. For anything new connect, once we are done, we give them updates. Hey, we're done with this section. And they will come back out and start looking at every pole, see if anything, because we've had where they mismeasured it. There was a wire going to a field, and they only measured the neutral going with the roadway. And they say, hey, you're 6 inches too close, you need to move it. And we have to go back and move it at that time. We stay within specs. Anything over the road, if it looks questionable, they're going to go out and measure it, make sure we're, over county roads, usually standards 13.6. Commercial roads, where it's more busy roads, 15.6. And then TxDOT is now 18 feet.
So this is kind of along with the same lines, but if you are on FEC's line or poles, how do you get to the house? Underground?
It follows the power. So the transformer,
So they'll go
if it's
pull the
aerial
pole
all the way
to the house?
the service wire does.
Okay, because I just want to make sure you're not crossing, because you'll have FEC, but you'll also have Poultry Water. And I don't
Yeah.
know if y'all are crossing any of that.
Oh,
It'll be all overhead.
Yeah, it's mostly overhead, certain spots. It's where the power line goes deep in somebody's property. Examples on 2434, it goes up, back behind the houses, and it's pretty deep in there, and it crosses and goes into another pasture. We just went underground, that little S-turn where it
So-
did that, so we don't have to
But that's
avoid that.
So if we're
Yeah.
focusing on the fee schedule, so for the inspection, what are you charged for that inspection?
They don't charge us as
Is it
farmers.
part of?
Yeah, it's our franchise agreements with the pole
Okay.
owners. So the pole owners, if we fail the inspection, they charge us
How much?
$8 a pole, Encore
Okay.
does. And we pay Encore, then we have to go back and fix it.
Okay.
But I think I don't think we want to take over the burden of the utility, the partner that you're working with's inspection. I think that's separate. I'm thinking our
Underground.
inspection is more like, did you tear up Miss Johnson's driveway?
Right.
Yeah,
Did you cut the highway and not repair it? Did you, fill up somebody's culvert
Yeah,
because you
'cause-
bored through it and didn't fix it? I mean, I would think that would be what the town would go out and check on, is that you haven't destroyed our town stuff, not whether your bolts are tied up on the power poles. I mean,
yeah,
that's
just
really.
focusing in the underground, in the right of way.
So-
Because most of your poles are outside the right of way.
Even though we haven't had a right-of-way approved, I have had like 3 complaints over various companies, so I imagine it would fall to the city manager, AKA mayor, whatever, to do that. So I don't know.
If it's property, like somebody damaged somebody's property, they can call and report it or notify y'all notify us, and we reach out to them. With farmers, same thing. If they damage their work on the poles, we do this all the time, where they made ruts. It's in the right of way, but it's not on the property, but then we still made ruts. we still go out there and get those ruts cleaned up.
Okay.
After it's all completed, they'll come out to rut it.
Okay, so thank you so much, Bruce, appreciate it.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
So, Jana, I think to your point on the range of fees we start with, I'm thinking about what Bruce said. If they submit documents, in my mind, we should make every effort to digitize those, right, to scan them.
Right, we will
somehow.
keep a file on the documents that they submit. Since we do not have a utility company, we won't be watching out for them to hit utility lines or anything like that. So you're right, it is property damage that we're gonna be
Right,
concerned
well, if
about.
they said they're gonna bore under a road and we drive out there to inspect, is that the road or do they bore under the wrong road or something? In which case,
Right.
we can come back and say, you said you were doing this corner, you did somewhere else. So I say that to say, I think there could be a little bit more reasonable expense incurred on our side, right?
Right.
If somebody going out there, in
Right.
the beginning, it may be the council members volunteering to do it, but somebody
Right.
just to go out and act interested in the project and pull out issues. Plus, you're not just filling out the form, you're gonna have to take all those records that Bruce or somebody
Right.
gives you, create probably a hard file, but you're also gonna have to scan them somehow and put them in an electronic repository somewhere so that we can keep them. And maybe someday we have a website where we put permits out on the website so the public can see them, so
Yes.
we know what's going on.
So
So all
then-
of that's gonna take time.
It snowballs into more than just the initial 20 minutes. So
Right.
that's something to take
That's-
into consideration as well.
I
That's
don't
why,
think it's
you know,
$500, but I think
100.
it might be 100 or a little more than 100
Yeah.
realistically.
You could start out with 100, and then if you see it's taking more time, you could always go back and change it.
I know when I originally was writing this, I was originally putting $100, and then I thought, well, let's just leave it open. But $100 does seem, if we're going to have to go out and look at the area to make sure that there's nothing gone awry, and file and put online and some of those things, then there would definitely be more cost involved. So do we have a motion on that part? And then we do have the requirement to put it in the newspaper, because there is a $500 fee involved, and the state does require that we publish that in the newspaper.
See, I have a question. Now, this, I presume, Spectrum and Monster are grandfathered in. This would not reflect costs for them, or am I wrong?
Well, there are projects, I think, that are underway might be, but I don't think forever they aren't. I mean,
Is that the intent?
Well, I think once we get this fee schedule, once we publish it in the newspaper, then anything that they haven't begun is subject to the permit.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
I mean, if they want to voluntarily give us the other drawings also, so we can have the whole picture, that would be great.
I think, yeah, we could figure
So
that
did you
out.
say, Tara, you said we have to put it in the newspaper if we charge $500 for a permit?
Well, no, in the ordinance itself, there is a stipulation that says that there is a fee of $500 for those who don't comply,
Oh, a fine.
a fine. And so anytime there's a fine of that amount, that does need to be published in our official newspaper, which is the Terrell Tribune. So just so we know that, then if it's going to be $100 or whatever the council decides upon for the fee schedule, then I assume that we can include that as well in that announcement. Is there a motion?
I'm good with $100 if Jenna will keep us abreast that, hey, seems to be fitting our budget. So I'll move to approve a right-of-way fee schedule of $100
Okay. And the newspaper publishing?
and the newspaper
Okay,
publishing.
thank
The
you.
expense.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Fowler, second by Anderson, to approve a right-of-way fee schedule for $100 with the newspaper publishing of the right-of-way ordinance. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to number 3, discuss and take action to establish a financial oversight team consisting of 2 council members. So I did reach out to our attorney on this one. I don't have a problem at all with financial oversight. I think I welcome that. So 13 months not having a city secretary does make it difficult to have everything up to par. But it is, now that we've had Jana, everything, the books are looking good. But when I reached out to our attorney, I guess my question to him was, if we have two co-signatories, Councilmember Anderson and Councilmember White, and then you have two others who are on the oversight team, there's potential there for breaking OMA. So I just wanted to make sure that we were aware of that. And so I know this was proposed by Councilmember Fowler and Jaffe, so I just wanted to, again, I welcome it, but I just want to make sure that we're aware of that potential problem there.
And I guess I'd add, since Simeon and myself have signature authority, it probably shouldn't be either one of us.
Well, the point that Attorney Berman was making, that there's a potential, if you two are signatories, then one of you actually probably should be on the Finance Committee, because otherwise you'll break OMA. You could potentially break Open Meetings Act if you talk about a financial discussion. You see what I'm saying? So there's a problem there if you can't have three or more. So it might actually need to be the signatories.
I was just supporting Mike's request for it. I was seconding it, so this is really
Okay.
Mike's
Oh, okay.
agenda item.
Okay. All right, so we have Citizen Chad McFarland.
What's
Okay.
Mike's comments on this?
Mike, did you have a comment?
Well, some of this is from me and some of this is from citizen input, but I think we're trying to improve, and it looks like we're making some steps in that direction, our transparency on finance and budget and spending and account balance, and I think this is a step in that direction. So I think it's, I don't know, it just makes sense. If everything is fine, we'll figure that out. If everything isn't fine, we'll be there to help make it fine. So,
Well, hiring a city secretary makes all the difference. As our auditor has said, that was our number one need, and I am so grateful to have Jana. So, and Teresa will be starting again this Thursday, and she'll be working on just the books. So that'll be such a big help. So, but actually, originally, when we had the co-signatories of Simeon and Tom, I kind of assumed that they would actually kind of play that role. I want it to be fully transparent. I want it to be out there. So, if you want to maybe allow them more oversight on that, I'm fine with that. Jana, can you see any issues with that?
No, we have bugs swarming you
Is the
guys
door-
right now.
The door shut or is it open? Yeah, I think we need to shut that door. They're coming in with the light.
No,
Thank you.
the
Thank you.
Open Meetings Act clearly states if three or more get together, so as long as you're avoiding that, I don't see a problem with
Okay.
oversight.
yeah, I don't have a concern, that I'm thinking of now with Tom and Simeon also being part of the oversight. I mean, they're going to jail like the rest of us if they do something untold, so.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, there's a consequence to bad behavior. So, and I think it's just somebody to help lend a hand, to ask questions, and then to be able to come back to the council if there's a concern and just say, no, we figured that out, this is good, this is
Well,
bad.
I guess I'd make the point that when I sign, and I'm presuming, I sign a check, presume Simeon too, we get the information for what it is, as well as invoices and any kind of unusual situations we want to know before we sign. Now, what I understand this would be was more than that. It's actually looking, I would think, at balance sheets, income statements, and more than just signing checks.
Yes.
And cash flow statements, things like that. And so before, say, an income statement would be, or balance sheet would be brought to the council, I would think whoever's on the financial oversight team would have reviewed it and made sure that we've answered any questions, so that when it comes to the council, it's not just Jana or not just Tara, it's, we can say, yeah, we reviewed it, we think we corrected anything, blah, blah, blah. So it's more than just signing checks.
Well, I will say, Tom, out of all the council that I've seen, you're very good at catching errors. You're quite the,
Well, I'd like to
editor.
tell Mike, I'm not going to
So-
jail.
So, no, I mean, we're trying our best to make sure that everything is on, full disclosure and full transparency. It's just a matter of, when you don't have a secretary for 13 months, it's really hard to keep things in perfect order. But we certainly are caught up now, and I'm excited that Jana is here and that Teresa will be keeping up on the QuickBooks. And so I think going forward, it can only be better. So, and that is the goal. So, but as far as catching numerical errors and other edits, Tom has been really Johnny on the spot on that. So just have to give him kudos for that. So, some people are really great at editing and then some people not as much. So, but Tom has been very good at that.
And to Mr. Tom's point, I mean, this sounds like it's more about the overall balances, because of course we're checking each check, and I feel good about the individual purchases I've checked, but it's the overall statements that I think citizens have been concerned about, that I've had people reach out to me about. But if we're going to check that, or if anybody's going to check that, they're going to have access to a lot more information and the bank account logins and the like, so they can actually review all the purchases, which is going to be just more access, more work, maybe a meeting between mayor and whoever's chosen to do that.
And that was kind of my question, is what exactly are the duties that we're expecting of the financial oversight team?
Well, I guess
There are
I'd say
none.
in my experience, been in consulting a long time, in the last 20 years, one of my roles was, we had a CFO that did the financial statements, and she had to sign off, but whoever was the oversight also had to sign off on the financial statements. That was for the auditors and for the owners and everybody else. So if I was going to say, if it's kind of like we have co-signers on checks, I think the balance sheets, income statements, cash flow, anything like that should be signed off by whoever prepared it, which if it's Tar or Jana or whoever, but also by whoever did the oversight review, so that if there's ever any question, we have a track record of who actually reviewed it. It's not just a word of mouth, it's actually a signature on it. Anyway, that was my experience, and I think the objective is to make sure everybody is not just honest. That's not the issue in my mind. It's just that we have thought of things and haven't missed something that should have been done a little differently or corrected, or at least raised questions. So anyway, that's my experience, and that's what I would say whoever does it should do. They should be prepared to sign off.
Yeah, and that was, you're getting closer to the answer to my question, because there's more to finance than paying a check, writing a check, paying an invoice. Are we looking at forward-looking statements, or, our budgets, actuals compared to budget, et cetera? That's what I'm trying to understand is the full scope.
Well, and that's also mandated by the auditors. Our auditors in the year, they're going to want to see who approved these different statements. So it makes them more comfortable.
Right.
So anyway, that's my experience, and I would say we ought to do it, but it ought to be done more than just the checks. I think we're doing a good job, or trying to do a good job of checking them, following all that, but it's the financial statements we're generating.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure I understood the scope of the team before I voted on it.
Okay.
So with Jana, and then now with Teresa, and then myself, three of us looking at the numbers, I did attempt a report of actual versus budget, but I wanted to go over it with Teresa because she did enter quite a bit of things, so before we released it, so kind of checking that anyway, but it would be nice to have even a third person checking over that. So is there someone who is comfortable doing that? We need to
Well, I don't mind doing it. I guess one of the things, whenever you sign your name, you look a lot more carefully. And so if I was
Right.
going to be signing, I would be looking very carefully.
Well, and that's the point. right? We want to
Or whoever.
study it and have gone over it thoroughly and, ask the right questions and correct anything that is not quite right.
Well, and I think they would also serve the purpose, Tara, of bringing that information back to the council, right? So it's not coming from outside the council when something is explained to us. It's somebody who's part of the council saying, okay, so this is my job to be the oversight on this, and I talked about it, this is why we decided to post it that way, or this is why we laid the budget out, And I think to your points, I wouldn't think it's digging into individual transactions unless something catches your attention. And then I don't know that you would have to have the log, and you can just ask Jenna or somebody, hey, this, I don't remember approving that level. Can you go look this check up? I'm thinking it's more when we get these reports each meeting, it's that somebody else, kind of like you and I look over the little newspaper thing that Tara puts together just for factual information and grammar and all of that. It would be somebody doing that same thing on the financial reporting. And saying things like, hey, I remember us talking about starting to report on this, or starting to do actuals to budget, or year-to-date, or whatever. These reports don't include that, guys. Let's start working on it. So we're not sitting up here in a council meeting talking about that. We've got somebody that's charged with holding us to account, so. And I think Tom, or for OMA and other purposes, Tom or Simeon or both, I think would be great to get that started. And we'll see how it goes.
So do we have a motion to I mean, we're not going to force it on you guys, but since you're the signatories anyway, it makes sense to me that you might look at those in the finances, the documents, and approve those as he's saying. It's kind of like we do, I send them maybe to you, and then you look for any discrepancies, any errors, anything that stands out, and then you give your input, and then we correct if needed, just as another checks and balance.
With a signature or initials or something to
Okay.
indicate approval.
Sure. So is that acceptable? We make the Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember White that for now?
Hey, come on, they're tough. They're running again, so they got to be tough, right? So.
Well, I'll do it. I can say it is a lot of work. It's more work than signing checks, but
Well,
I'll do it.
maybe we just call it like a mediator. So if anybody at council has questions, because you are signatories, we can just go to you two guys. Maybe it's not as much an oversight. We have that ability right now. Every council member gets the same report.
But if they're talking about something, we can't go to them outside of this meeting.
Yeah, I think
If I go to those two guys,
Then you can.
so then we just need one of those to be that mediator.
Well, it doesn't, I don't like the fox garden and hen house, so to speak. The people who are writing the checks shouldn't be the people who are auditing, but,
But they understand.
I understand the argument on both sides of it, but even if, say you and Simeon were on the team, I still couldn't come to you. So it's still only two people that are going to be able to discuss it.
What if it's asked on the forum?
It's
Yeah.
asked on the forum.
Yeah, that's fine.
We're okay.
So they have access as signatories, or we could call them mediators or oversight team regardless, and if we have a question about a document, if they could be the ones that.
Bring it up on the
into
forum. So I know the auditor did mention that, in the checks and balances they give us, the guidelines that they give us, they really did like the fact that, okay, the city secretary is not actually writing the checks. So there is a checks and balance there. Even though she's inputting the checks, she's not writing the checks. And then the mayor's writing the checks, but then she's also checked by 2 other council members. So there is a nice checks and balance there. And they said that was really good. So, but as far as this report goes, maybe it should just be one.
It could be one primarily. I mean, I didn't see a reason why 2 of us should look over it necessarily. I think 1 would be plenty. It might be a good idea to have 2 people who know how to do it. In the same way that Mr. Tom, does most of the checks and writes the checks. If he wouldn't mind being the primary person to check this, that'd be great. And if he's ever out, then I could step in. And that way only one of us is kept up to date with it. We're not doubling up on work, and somebody could reach out to him, or in a rarer case, I, if something goes wrong.
Okay, do we have a motion? Moving us along. Do we have a motion for that?
Yes, but I'm not sure what it says because we've been all over the place.
Okay, so if we had a motion to allow Tom Anderson, Councilmember Tom Anderson, financial oversight is primary, Simeon White is secondary to sign off, and to have financial oversight on the financial reports.
To include budgets,
Mhm.
bank statements, profit
Sure.
and loss, anything
Any-
that deals with reporting
Mhm.
on the money coming or going to the town would
It's,
be,
it's basically anything that goes to the auditors too.
right. And it's not when you get curious, it's an official function that you would have to approve them. So when Janet prepares them earlier in the month, or whomever, they would come to you guys, you would scrub them and say, I'm good. And then they would be forwarded to the council and to the public.
That's a long motion.
Okay,
Well,
so
I'm
we,
just trying to make sure we include everything. I don't want it to be just willy-nilly, so I think it's a motion
Okay.
to designate Tom Anderson to create a financial oversight, it's not a committee, is it? Function, to be staffed initially by Tom Anderson as the primary and Simeon White as the secondary, to review all financial reports and documents
okay, do we have a
to
second?
the council.
Second.
Okay. I'm not going to even try to repeat that, but we do have a motion to
Good
allow.
recording.
Yes, and it's been seconded by Councilmember Vinson. All those in favor?
Do we have any public on this?
No.
Okay.
And that passes unanimously, I believe. Okay, thank you. All right. Number 4. Oh, wait a minute.
That was 3.
Let me say something. Tara, excuse me, but the numbers of the agenda items on the agenda I looked at home to do the cards were different than the numbers on this agenda that's on the table. So when I got here, you'll see how I adjusted the cards to match the numbers on the agenda that's here at the meeting. So there may be some
Okay.
serious confusion on when people
Okay.
signed up to speak.
Yes, I see. Okay, so financial oversight, Glenn Strauss, I apologize, you signed up to speak and you didn't get to speak. Would you like to speak on that? Oh, you're going to pass? Okay. So he's the only one signed up for that issue. And we'll go by the title of the issue and not the number. Okay, thank you. All right, so on my agenda, number 4 is discuss and take action on paying August, September, and October, November invoice for $3,000 for Messer Fort McDonald totaling $17,955, but discounting to pay a total of $3,000 owing to direct and indirect cost of the second election. And then the council had asked for a letter to be able to provide some counsel on that. So we do have a letter here that was approved. I did go back and look at what was stated. I know our current attorney said it was pretty shocking. It was grossly disproportionate to the size of our town, the bills that we've been receiving. And so he thought that our town should only have around $8,000 a year. We've already paid $24,000 to our attorneys. And so because of this particular error, I don't have an issue with just, and we do know that Attorney Messer did say on video, just pay what you think is fair. And so looking at the potential loss of sales and tax revenue, I feel like let's write the letter, send the check, and be done with the outstanding invoices. Okay, is there any comment from council?
I guess I have a question, Tara. the November, did we get a November invoice from Messer?
It was the $3,000 one.
Just 3,000 flat,
Mhm.
no discount, anything?
Well, that was kind of a discount.
No, I mean, normally they give us the hours.
Yes, didn't I sent that to you all? Did I not?
I didn't-
So it basically said on it, it was itemized, it said no charge, charge all the way through it, and then at the end, it just
Okay.
said lump sum 3,000.
Okay, so it's 3,000, so
Mm-hmm.
then, I guess I calculate the total is, with that, is almost 17,955 roughly.
Mhm.
And so we're saying,
That's the full price value.
if we, no, that's the discounted, the value of the discounted invoices from August, September, October, and November.
That was the value that they discounted, the lawyers discounted.
Right.
And I think
We-
this is saying that we're going to discount it
The
further.
last invoice we paid, I believe, was July, right?
Yes,
So-
sir. Mhm.
So this August, the discounted monthly bill was 5,132 roughly.
Mhm.
September was 5,376, October 4,446, and November 3,000.
Mhm.
So the total is 17,955. So we're saying offer them 3,000 and see if they take it?
Offer him 3,000 and yes, sign it off on it. Because their rates, according to Attorney Berman, were grossly disproportionate.
Well, and on that point, you mentioned that he said that, you know, a town our size should only be about eight grand. But we have to take that in context of if we pay the bill that he's presented, which is something we'll discuss in more depth on the next item, that's going to be over 16 grand for the year if each month, if that's representative of each month that he has. So
It's
I would
not, though.
prefer, I would prefer if we just stuck to, you know, what we're talking about rather than,
Sure. Okay, so, right, but we'll get on that, but that was with a 3-hour closed session. So, anyway, so any other comment?
And I know I won't have the popular comment on this, because y'all know how I feel about it, but I just want to go on record to say that I don't feel like 3,000 is a fair amount. Mr. Fort McDonald, we chose them, we hired them, we sent them to work, we knew their hourly rate, and the total $17,955.04. I know it's not the popular decision, but that's my opinion.
Okay, so they switched out the attorney on us and gave us an underling attorney, and their paralegal unfortunately made this egregious
And we
error.
could never speak up and disagree with anything they did until the time we lost them, so I just want.
No,
it's
that's
gonna
not
happen.
true, actually. So we did have discussion about their error, and Attorney Berman wasn't available at that time, but, so they made some critical errors, and so the loss of revenue from our sales and use tax is anyone's guess. The cost of the election was $5,700 itself. We had to have a second election because of their error. And so, and their rates are just exorbitantly high, even if they discount.
Yeah,
So-
there's no way to know what we lost. There's no way to properly gauge how much they're worth. We know how much they charged us. We know how much, you know, they said we could do, which they just said, you know, bill us whatever you think's fair. That left the ball in our court. So it's just a judgment call at this point. There's no, you know, empirical data that is going to point us to an exact number, which is why I will always respect Mr. Terry's opinion, because it's just a judgment call, one way or another. So I know this letter's been vetted by your attorney. It seems solid. I mean, if they balk about it, if they have problems with it, and they send an email back saying, no, please pay that full amount, then maybe we can revisit this. But, I mean, we're going to pay them at least $3,000, right? So
Right. Now,
I
he
would
did, and he
send
did
this.
say, you know, pay what you think is fair. If, in my manufacturing company, if I make an egregious error and I have to scrap a product that I've already shipped to Canada, say, then I have to not only pay the freight to get rid of that, I also have to replace that product. It's on me. So if I make an egregious error, I have to make it right. And so I just feel like in this arena that I'm for the citizens of Poetry, and I'd much rather spend that money on our roads than, you know, with some of this that's gone on. Unfortunately, they passed it to the underling attorney that was not she's very smart, but just not as experienced. And we were paying for, you know, some high dollar, and again, they have some super attorneys. They just, we actually feel like we're paying for their training of their new attorneys, so.
Terry, would you agree that the cost of the election would be something that is reasonably discountable?
I would consider that, but we're discounting it for the fact that we lost revenue that we won't know for some time.
No, I'm just saying the cost of the second election for the same item.
Yeah, I'm okay with giving that. I mean, you know how I feel about it. I mean, but I'm okay with that.
Well, and I would chime in, Terry, I'm somewhere between you and Simeon, maybe, that I read this as an offer to settle. I don't read this as a final anything, right? Because they have every opportunity to come back and say that's not enough, or we agree, or whatever. So I don't think it leads to a lawsuit or anything like that. I think it leads to potentially either a settlement or another conversation. I do think it kind of reminds me, I was in the restaurant business when I was a kid, and, you know, there would be people that would come into the restaurant, eat the entire meal, and then complain and not want to pay for it. And I'm like, well, if it was that bad, why did you clean your plate? You know, you take one bite out of the steak and send it back, but you don't eat the entire steak and the vegetables. And so I do think, to Terry's point, we're a little complicit in this, in that we allowed it to go on. I don't know what conversations you had with them, Tara. I didn't call them to account on it directly, but I just want to make sure that we, to Terry's point, I don't want to, or I think his point, I don't want to badmouth them. I mean, they did what they did. We witnessed it. We allowed it to go on. But I think Andy, standing here in front of the council, said whatever you think is fair. So I think this is one attempt at what we believe is fair, and I would, you know, approve it, send it out as an offer, and if it doesn't settle, we'll have a follow-up discussion.
So the letter indicates that this is a take it or leave it type of scenario.
Well, I guess I would add one other point. You know, as I said, our total discounted bills are $17,955. If you deduct the Hunt election costs and the Kaufman election costs, which totaled $6,339, then just those direct costs, then the net due would be $11,616. So I guess my question is where did we get 3,000? Is there a basis for that?
Okay, so we know that we probably have lost at least, we were guesstimating at least $15,000 on potential sales and use revenue for the, you know, the botched work. So I think even at 3,000, we're paying too much, probably.
16,000 is what we came
So
up with here.
15,000 is what we put in our budget. So we're guesstimating that 15,000 sales and use for a year, and then if you add in the 15,000 plus the $5,750 roughly for the election cost, you know, we're well over 20,000.
Now, you're basically claiming that as damages, but we don't have any basis to.
Right, and I think a court, until we have a year track record of collecting it, I don't think a court is going to sustain that.
So,
They're gonna say no.
Well, if we want to
Actual-
change the letter to say something else, I just think.
I think if we want to offer Andy 3,000, we offer him 3,000. I disagree with Brian. I don't think it says this is all you're getting. I just think it says this is our full offer to settle this debt. And again, I think they have every right to reject it if they want. I don't think they will. I think they just want to get rid of us.
Yeah, I think,
But I think they have every opportunity to come back and
Okay, the
negotiate.
letter says the enclosed check is intended as the full and final payment for all legal services rendered
Right.
through the date of separation, and is to serve as a release from that firm to the town for all amounts that may otherwise be due to the firm for legal services. That's
And-
not
and
saying,
if-
well, you know, here's what we're offering you. If you have a suggestion, come back with something else.
Well, and if they cash that check, then I would agree this is enforced. But if they don't cash that check, then I think the conversation is still ongoing, so.
exactly.
I mean, if they don't
If
get
they
it,
deposit the check, shame on
Then
them,
that's-
'cause
that's
they
acceptable.
accepted it.
So do we have a motion? I'm trying to
I
move
mean,
us along.
It's like a business quote in my mind. We
Mm-hmm.
always put, this final offer, it's legally
Mm-hmm.
binding, this quote can't change. And then, there might be a back and forth of negotiations, and the next quote's
Yeah,
different.
you're not gonna put that this is our first offer, because then they're gonna know you're negotiating. You just say, this is all I'm gonna pay, that's it, and you see how
And
they
again,
respond.
he's on
Until they
record as
watch
saying,
this.
well, no, he's on record as saying, pay what you think is fair. And so, yes, I mean, it's kind of it's a huge blow for our town. It was a huge blow, and it is also, I think, not so great for them either. So,
Okay, so maybe that's the question. I hate the word fair because it's very subjective. So, is 3,000 what we think is fair? I think Mr. Fowler says that the full amount that they billed for is what's fair. And some others think, on a personal level, I think 0 is fair. But that's not the town's stance. That's Brian's stance when he's at home.
well, for
So,
legal reasons, we gotta have them a check, because a check's an indication that they accepted the agreement.
Agreed, agreed. But, I personally think that, that 3,000 is a generous offer, but from the perspective of the town, which I have to draw a line between my personal thoughts and the town's thoughts, I'm not sure.
okay.
Do we have any public input?
No, not on this, amazingly.
Okay, we're seeking a motion
So
to
we,
approve the letter.
yes, a motion to accept the letter with the $3,000 check.
Well, I guess I would raise, there's one word, I would say, shouldn't we say an expected or a projected loss of sales, because we don't know. So
Right.
someone can come in and say, okay, show us that invoice. If we say projected or expected or something of that sort, then no one can say, show us the invoice. Now, we can show them the invoice for the election.
Okay, so are you having projected loss of sales tax revenue? Okay.
What is the
Noted.
word?
Projected loss of sales tax revenue.
Okay, so
On the letter.
somebody needs to make a projection then.
Well, we already have in our budget.
But then that would be
That's in writing.
0, then they'd owe us money, 15,000. We don't want to do that. So,
So 15,000 was what we projected in our budget, and then if you add the election cost, it's $5,700 roughly. It's well over 20,000. So do we have a motion?
well, wait a minute, Tara, I think Mike's point is right. Projected indicates we've got a number. If you said potential or something that was more nebulous, I think that gives us some more wiggle room if they
You want to
come
say
back.
potential? Okay,
Or possible, or potential, or any
Yeah.
word.
potential. Okay.
Just
You
leave
like
us
the word
wiggle room.
potential?
Okay, we don't have to
Alright.
prove potential.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right.
Accept it with that one word.
Okay. We have a motion by Anderson to accept this letter with a check of $3,000 with the amendment of the word potential as a potential loss of sales revenue on the letter. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Simeon, and all those in favor? And that passes 4-1. Okay? Okay.
I'm trying.
Did you realize you had to, this one had 0 on it, but then this one says pay new lawyer. Okay, pay new lawyer, okay. 5, discuss and take action for December bill of $0 and January bill of $13.65 invoices to Nichols, Jackson, Dillard, Hager, and Smith Law Firm for a total of $13.65. We did have that 3-hour executive session in which he was here. Mr. Berman says he charges 45 minutes for the one-way, but he doesn't charge for the way back. It was a 3-hour meeting. He did stay for the entire 4 hours, and then so his bill for the entire month, which came on time, which was very refreshing. So that was $1,365. He didn't charge anything for his December labor. So, any comments from?
Yeah, I think Chad and Shelley and Bruce.
I do have that here, thank you.
Okay.
All right, any comments by council?
Just to point out the no bill month that he wrote off, that's awful gracious, but it would have been $1,072.50. So,
Mhm.
just so when we're tracking our $8,000 estimate,
Mhm.
to your point, that was
Mhm.
$1,072.50 that was wrote off.
So once we have, I think, an experienced secretary that can help alleviate some of that. So, all right, anyone else? Okay, we have citizen Chad McFarland. Okay, citizen Shelley Smith.
Okay, I'm dreadfully confused. The agenda on the table says pay December 0 and January 1365, blah, blah, blah. The agenda online says discuss and take action for December 0 and January 1335. Which one is it?
Mine says discuss and take action.
Mine says take action.
It says the same thing.
The one on the table says pay.
I think the one on the tape is totally wrong. I think it's the one that they're using, the one that was,
Oh, okay.
it's
It's an older copy, probably.
very messed up.
So
Okay.
And
would you reread the?
Okay, so number 5 is discuss and take action for December, $0 and January 1365 invoices to Nichols, Jackson, Dillard, Hager, and Smith Law Firm for a total of $1,365.
Okay, I didn't sign up for that one.
Okay,
I signed up for 7, 8, and 11, I think.
Well, 7 on the one that you were looking at is now 5, which is that.
So which ones did you sign up for? What were, not the numbers, the
The
topic?
title was about the new town hall and about rules of procedure and P&Z, I believe.
okay, so we'll catch you on the next topic then.
That's
Thank you.
7, 8, and
I don't
11.
think I'll even try to figure.
This is a serious problem. I mean, you know, if the agendas are wrong, this is a
Well-
problem.
Okay, so the agenda that we have and the one that's online is correct, I believe. Okay, all right. All right, so number 6,
Listen
or
for
excuse
the
me,
topic.
number,
Listen for the topic.
so, yeah, be listening for the topic and we'll,
Yes.
all right, so the new lawyer, okay, so Bruce Seat, did you want to speak to this one? Okay. Who all, Evie, who was speaking on, who wanted to speak on this topic, do you know?
Which is your topic 5?
The
Which
one,
was-
discuss and take action, paying Nichols, Jackson, Dillard.
Which was your topic 4, which was this
No.
topic,
Our topic 5.
your topic 5. Yeah, does anybody want to speak?
So, it got all just, okay, so let's
It's
scrap,
crazy.
the agenda that's on there is old, that's an old one.
Right. it's-
All right,
it's a draft.
so there are many, yeah, is there anyone who signed up to speak for this topic?
Paying the current law firm.
Paying the current law firm, $1,365.
Okay.
All right, it doesn't look like there is. So any council comments on that?
I'll move to approve the bill for $1,365.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Fowler, seconded by Jaffe, to pay the bill of our current attorney, $1,365, for the month of January. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to number 6, discuss and take action on paying Hunt County Roads Project Sheet H05, $2,900, covering roads CR 2434, CR 2432, CR 2430, and CR 2464. I do know that it's, I believe 2434, I got a call on that today. I did measure that one. There is, it's very strange, but it is like an 8-foot by 9-foot hole in the road.
Yeah.
I think you could lose a car in it.
You can
And
make
so
this
it's,
swimming pool.
it, and I did get a call from Star Transit saying, please address that. So it's gotten serious. You know, and it just happened. Some of you live on that road, but I mean, I drive that road occasionally. It just seemed like it happened so quickly after the last storm. So it does happen, and so I hope that we can address some of these. Any comments by council? No. Okay. Hunt County Roads Project, Chad McFarland. You did sign up for this? Okay, who signed up for the roads? Is there a show of hands? I apologize for the mix-up there.
Motion to approve the worksheet.
Okay,
Second.
all right, we have a motion by Jaffe, seconded by Vincent, to accept the project road sheet for $2,900. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Woohoo. Moving along. All right, number 7. Okay, so as requested last time, and the attorney was like, why are you doing another budget? I'm like, no, this was an itemized underneath our budget of $15,000, which was approved in the overall budget. The council wanted more of an itemization of what anticipated costs are with the town hall site. So I did try to work on that. Did get quite, now I didn't include all of the, every little, so I did look on, you know, Amazon for some of the prices on like the toilet paper dispenser, soap dispenser, just to get an idea of what we're looking at. So in the $15,000 that the council has approved for the town hall site, I've itemized things to be able to move in. It would cost roughly $7,565.69. That means getting the septic in, the ramp and rail, if that quote is still good, the ADA compliant parking with sidewalks, as Mr. Barnett was donating quite a bit of his labor, that was $4,150. The solar lighting, poles, and then you've seen the ADA compliant bathroom. I did meet with a plumber who is a certified plumber, and he gave me some really good ideas on that. So I think we know going forward how to make it. We aren't required to do an inspection. I did talk with Kelly Johnson Associates, who does ADA inspections, and then you can see on that where if the project is under $50,000, you're not required to do that. They don't even have the time, they said, but we are going to try and make that compliant.
To that point, before we skip it, that's a plan review. I'm not reading that as an inspection. You're not required to submit the project to the department's registration and review, because under that it's submit plans for accessibility. That doesn't say that we don't have to have an inspection. And if we don't have to have an inspection, I would still think that it would be best to make sure that we're not negligent in that.
So the expert in the field told me that we didn't need an inspection.
Okay. So, okay, well, let's keep
I
on
mean,
that,
talking to Kelly Johnson, they do them all day long.
Okay.
They said that it's not required.
We'll
I mean, there's a county building in the city of Terrell that doesn't have ADA. So
are we negligible if someone gets hurt and it's found out that it's not ADA compliant? Are we negligible?
we are trying to follow ADA, and so we are trying to follow ADA, but it doesn't mean that we have to spend an extra $1,000 to go through the ADA inspection process.
Is that what the inspection is, $1,000?
On one of it's 500 plus another 500, so it would be about 1,000.
Okay. So to that point, it's less than 50,000. Is this whole project less than $50,000?
Yes, it's right now to move in, it's 7,500.
No.
And then the next fiscal year, if we did the grade of the level and the parking lot, it's another 8,000. And then if you go in the wish list, 2 to 5 years, an HVAC system of
Okay.
10,500. That's.
But to where we're at, I'm going to disagree. This document will be retroactive. We have moved that building from its original place to serve as a town hall, all that money is gonna be encumbered in that total price.
Actually, I don't believe so.
Okay.
So the building was donated to the town, in the deadline was, it was back in April, and so.
I think this is another example of structuring to avoid the law.
No, Terry, or it could be construed that you really don't want a town hall for some reason.
No, that
So-
has nothing to do with it. The document that you provided us clearly explains that any project that exceeds $50,000 requires this. So it's almost like you're saying, well, we haven't done anything. Well, the whole time we've been working on a town project. So let's not say that none of that money counts. I'm simply asking you the question is, if this project is gonna cost $50,000, we have a document here that says we have to register it.
And I did ask that question, and I'm trying to tell you, the answer was no. We didn't receive the gift of the town hall until, and all this right here, this budget that we proposed, the $15,000, is now going forward. That is what you base it on, is what I've been told.
So you mentioned a minute ago, Tara, that we had an expert that said we didn't have to comply with ADA. Who is that?
No, that's not what I said, that we didn't have to have the ADA inspection, to pay the extra $1,000 for the ADA inspection. We still have to try and follow ADA, which we certainly are going to do. So we have plenty of experts, that are familiar with ADA that can make that happen. We've discussed, we've measured the toilet from the sink and vice versa. The railing, Leland is very familiar with that. He does it in Dallas, all the time. So I think the goal is definitely to get the ADA ramp, the railing as needed, the ADA bathroom, go through and get those compliant with ADA. I think Mayor Pro Tem Tom and I did talk, he talked with council member from Quinlan, and it was said that that they were subject to a fine, which they were not. We did investigate Wills Point. Wills Point was investigated in 2010, but it was only because they accepted government grant money for their ADA compliance. So I think it doesn't have to be as hard as we're making it.
So you said, Tara, back to the budget, the phase one totals out at $7,565.69. You're saying that's what remains to get it move-in ready?
So no, that would be the cost to be able to have move-in, so approximately. Now, it may be a little altered from that. That's the proposed. And then, so remaining from the 15,000 would be 7,434 after you've gotten the items to move in.
So where are we on the items in phase one? Septic, is it done? Did we meet our $500 budget?
No, it's been too wet. It's been too wet. We haven't been able to do that.
I guess I need to rewind just a little bit. So the project is not going to exceed $50,000, is that correct?
Depends on when you start adding.
And what is the project?
The project, from the time that it was donated to the town to the time that our what we say is completion.
Okay. So moving the town so that it can, or moving the building so that it can become town hall, including all of the interior restoration that needs to happen, is the project.
There's not really, we have the interior that needs to happen is listed here. It's already,
I
a lot of
understand
that's already
that
happened.
that's the outstanding. Have we spent more than $43,500 roughly? Have we spent more than that on this project so far?
No, it's all donated, donated.
what
So if it's donated,
Now
it doesn't
that's-
count.
Donated doesn't, absolutely doesn't
No,
count?
if you've spent, if the town has spent money on it, like cash money on it, then that counts. If it's a donated something, then that doesn't.
Okay, so from
That's
everything.
my understanding.
Okay, it would be nice to have some backup, but I did not look into that, so I'm not pointing fingers that somebody else hasn't.
But to your question, Brian, to nitpick a little bit, it says, if your project's total estimated cost is less than 50,000, it doesn't specify whether that's out of pocket or that's like total asset, you know, everything in cost. I mean, I don't understand what that means. So are donations in or out? I don't know. You know, I think if it's just based on checks we've written, I don't think we're nearly to 50,000, but if it's based on all the money that's been put in, we could be.
And I'm looking at phase 4, and if we're adding up all the totals, all the way down to phase 4, you know, that comes out to 37,000, or closer to 38.
That goes back to the question of how do you define a project?
Exactly, and that means that if we're counting what we have listed here, that means we can't have spent more than $12,000, which...
To me, by breaking it into phases, we're showing that it is a 4-phase single project. If we broke each of those phases out into its own individual project, it's a whole different ball of wax. So
Exactly.
it's how you structure it, not there. I mean, it's
So any way you
weird
slice
to-
it, we're not over 50,000 on this. So if it's 39,500 for the total, you know, again, we are going to try and be ADA compliant. We are a small, new country town. There are buildings, municipal buildings in the city of Terrell who aren't ADA compliant, and yet you're going to try and make us jump through enormous hoops. It just doesn't make sense to me. I do want to be ADA compliant. Currently, I don't, you know, see that we should have to jump through amazing hoops to make that happen. I think we can make it happen, you know, with the expertise that we have among us.
My suggestion would be that phase 1, we rename project 1, and that's move in, make town hall move in ready. Phase 2, we call that project 2, and that's closet build out. Phase 3, we call it project 3, and that's grade and level of leased parking lot, deck off back. So if we break these projects out, it's not structuring, because the other items are not around ADA. So it's not structuring this to avoid the $50,000 cap. It is breaking the overall program, if you want to use a project management term, but breaking the overall program into individual projects.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm fine with that. Any other comments on that?
So back to the budget, Tara, so you said, just starting at the top, how confident are we of these numbers that we're good, that 7,600 or so is the move-in cost, or is there any possibility these numbers are going to change materially, not $10 or $15, but hundreds or thousands of dollars?
Well, if we don't get the soil doesn't dry up and Mr. Vickers can't do his job adequately, there might be a problem there.
So what would that problem look like, just an example? Is that he's not going to do it for that price, or he's not going to do it at all?
Well, you know, okay, so he tried to come out in the soil, he dug the hole, and then he had to fill it back in because it was too wet. And the same thing happened with his other his other employee doing one elsewhere. So why he came out, I'm not quite sure, since it happened at both places. So there might be, I don't know going forward, but that's, as far as the other things, Mr. Anderson went ahead and took some scrap lumber he had and looks beautiful. He did the stairs for the other side of the building. So kudos to him. He has the wood, he donated the wood and the labor, and it did a good job. But as far as, and I went ahead and had my employee do the trim. He finished the trim for the secretary's office and the countertop. And we made sure that was ADA compliant as well. So the countertop and the trim on that were completed. We have a volunteer who's going to do the attic installation. So I mean, it's always possible, you know, if you've ever built anything, you know, it's always possible that there's issues come up. but as far as I can tell, you know, and this is, you know, you asked for a proposed budget, and this is my stab at it, so.
We have citizen comments?
I believe Chad.
Okay, so do we have any comments on the proposed budget for the town hall sites?
I think the budget is exactly what we asked for, and I appreciate that, but the other supplemental documents that you bring us, that's when I start having questions, and the last thing I want to do is see the city in a courtroom because we tried to be ADA. I think we need to make every attempt. It is a single-use bathroom that we're building access for ADA people to come into our building, and I'm thankful for that. Let's provide them the means to use the bathroom in an ADA compliant bathroom.
Well,
That's
we
all I'm
are.
asking for.
We are.
So Terry,
There's no
kind of
doubt.
Trying.
Yeah.
as a point of order, Terry, we're talking about the budget. Is your concern as it affects cost, and so it's not reflected in the budget accurately? I mean, because there is a whole debate over the bathroom size and all of that, but that's not really this item. This item is the budget, and whether Tara has done a reasonable job of capturing all of the costs, right, that are out in front of us.
I think that, like I said, the budget does exactly what we asked, and I think it was thoughtful and appears to be precise, but when you provide me a document that says, highlighted, that it potentially needs to be submitted, and I don't know that where we're at, and I asked the question, have we spent $50,000 to move into this thing? That's alarming to me, and because it's part of this package, I think it needs to be discussed.
Okay. All right, so what citizens were talking on this item? Is that Chad McFarland? I imagine you're on deck, so Mr. McFarland?
I think Shelley was also on this, 7, 8, 11.
Chad McFarland, 19850 FM 986. Y'all may have remembered I spoke very highly about Jody Vickers on the septic. I want to read you a message he sent me on February 6th. Poetry should have been an easy job. Got stuck. Tank truck got stuck. Had to send my second crew just to clean the mess up, and it messed up my tranny. I edited that right there. Messed up the tranny on my backhoe. I told the mayor I could still do the job, but I couldn't make the donation due to unforeseen circumstances. I asked him, how far along are you on the job? He says, spent all day in the mud to accomplish nothing and lost $1,500. Then I'm going to read a cut and paste of a text that he tells me that he sent the mayor. I was assuming the donation was a stipulation of me doing the job. I'm a man of my word, so I don't want to proceed unless we are clear that I will not be able to do the donation in order to get the job done. In order to get the job done in a timely manner, I'll have to use my second crew, which means I will not be making any profit. I would like it to be known that my lack of donation is due to the circumstances that took place today and not my credibility. I don't want people thinking I got the job based on false pretenses, if that makes sense. My second crew has a skid steer and an excavator, so they are able to operate in the type of conditions we've seen today, but it cost me more money, and that was not taken into account when I agreed to do the job. It's a lose-lose situation for both of us, but it gets the job done. I'm still willing to donate the maintenance contract expenses, but I just can't afford to donate the $4,000 due to unforeseen circumstances. The mayor responded, the money is more important than the time delay, and Jody says 10-4, I'll be in touch. So, and I've had conversations with Jody today, and the 10-4, I'll be in touch is the last message that he has sent the mayor. So it seems like we're not being presented with full information about the cost of this project.
So in an effort to protect Mr. Vickers' reputation, I wanted to discuss this with him at a later time when he had cooled down. So thank you. All right, Ms. Shelley Smith?
Thanks, Chad.
So I see on this proposed budget thing, there is absolutely nothing for labor awaiting quote. Do we have a guess on that? Are we just going to pretend like it's not part of all of this? And then also, because I know you're not going to answer my question, and then also, it sure seems to me like the place kind of needs a new roof, and I noticed that is not anywhere in the budget. There's still a tarp covering the northeast end of the building. I don't see anything in the budget on fixing that. I think your budget has some serious flaws in it. I think there's a lot of things left out. I think there's a lot of things that are being kind of like glazed over to try to push your agenda. I think you need to slow down. You need to figure out exactly what you're doing before you do anything else.
On number 10, finish out closet materials. The quote for the labor and material is there. That is the area of the tarp.
And that's the exterior of the building, because it sure reads to me like this is a closet on the inside.
It is the area where the tarp is. That's the closet area.
That's phase 2. So how long can that tarp stay up before
It
there's
does-
too much rain inside the building? And then we need a new floor.
There has been no rain inside the building thus far. So we can move in without that, but it is in the current year budget to finish out all of that.
Okay,
And so the labor and equipment that we have, or the labor quote and the materials cost, that's why I have the itemization of the materials. It is it's right here. And so the labor quote was $1,600. So that is the area. The roof just happened after the agenda was made. The roof, so if some shingles blew off in the last recent storm, and that's something that'll take a box of shingles that I'm going to have my guy do this on here this next
So
week.
the labor I'm talking about at the beginning is on the bathroom.
On bottom of number 5.
Yeah.
So you're referring to?
Labor awaiting quote.
Oh, okay, so, yeah, I am still working on that, that's why that is there. We might even have a volunteer do that, though, so.
Okay. And, well, never mind, I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
We're not really supposed to answer questions.
You're right. But it's on the sheet. Okay, I don't think there's anyone else on this item. This was basically to discuss this phased budget. I think we have heartily discussed it. I can make the suggested amendments, namely calling it Project 1 instead of Phase 1, Project 2. That's not a problem. We do have a few, like I mentioned, a few shingles did come off the roof. That's one box of shingles and a little bit of labor. So will we need a roof in the future? Most everybody does. So, you know. Moving on. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. 8:23. Okay. Are we resuming our meeting? The time is 8:32 now. Okay, we're going to move on to number 8, discuss and take action on rules of procedure. So we, after our executive session with our attorney, he thought that we should revisit this, and so we are. I left it open-ended because I wanted to see if maybe we could agree on, in an effort, okay, you're elected officials here, you know, the meetings have gone very long, as you know, and so we're trying to think of any way we can to make them shorter, because it gets exhausting up here. And so I think if I might propose a motion to limit experts to 15 minutes maximum. We've had some experts that went on, and so that would be one step that I think we could do that maybe we could all agree on. I don't know. Any comment on that particular suggestion?
Can we back up just a second, Tara? Because when I got this, we didn't get any material with it, so I at least didn't have any idea what we're going to talk about. The rules of procedure term threw me a little bit, so I went back to the beginning of time for the council, and what I saw was that on August 17th of 2021, during a regular meeting, we moved an item to create rules of procedure to a workshop, which we then had on September 7th of 2021, a workshop. We discussed it, and then we went to a regular meeting, September 21st of 21, and we passed a decorum policy, a town council decorum and procedures policy. I motioned, Anderson backed it up, Vincent abstained. So that's September of 2021. In October of 2022, at a regular meeting, you put an agenda item on to modify it, and that got tabled by a vote of 5-0. So we did not change it. So it still stands as approved from September of 2021 as a decorum and procedures policy. Now, when I went to the website, there actually is an item that says rules of procedure, but when you click it, it's the we get a free water meter from Poetry Water document. It is not rules of procedure. So I think that was a term we used to describe the type of document we wanted to create, something that would govern our behavior.
Yeah.
But we never passed anything called rules of procedure. What we
The rules of
passed,
decorum used to be on that link, though, because.
well, no, it is there. It's
Okay.
a separate link.
Okay.
So the rules of decorum is there, but then there's another one right next to it that's rules and procedures, but when you click on it, it's the water meter free from Poetry Water resolution. My only point in saying that, not because we have a web error, that's not an issue, that's a minor thing, but I think what this is meant to be, just for clarity, is discuss and take action on town council decorum and procedures policy, because that's the only binding document that we have ever discussed and passed as a council. There is not a separate document. I went through minutes, I went through agendas, it doesn't exist.
Okay, so you're saying that rules of procedure and decorum, or what did you call
No,
that?
well, this is the document, it's right off the website. It's
Right.
a town council decorum and procedures policy.
Okay.
This is what we
Well,
created.
okay, so yes, so it's still a rules of procedure, that's just the way, I mean, I think it's kind of splitting hairs a little bit there. It is a
Well,
rules
but
of procedure.
when people do, for example, a public information request, you're not going to find rules of procedures. It doesn't exist, because this is, I mean, if you did that, then you would put something like also known as or something to cross-reference, because, and if you go to the website, it seems to show that they are two separate documents, but,
They're one and the same, and we've talked about that, but,
well, I don't remember talking about
Mike,
it. I looked in the
are you
minutes.
suggesting that we're not able to discuss
No,
it because
no,
it's
not at all.
mislabeled?
I'm just saying, for my benefit, because I spent several hours reading all the minutes, and again, the beginning ones were boring, and all of the agendas, I have every agenda for the last year and a half printed out here and highlighted that references it. Nowhere in there does it talk about rules of procedure. I'm not saying we can't discuss it, that's a separate one. If
well, it's
somebody
kind of a generic name for, I mean, to say that whole paragraph.
But
Of
that's
course,
like-
again, if you wanted to make amendments, you get those early, remember? I send those out on Thursday. If you want to make amendments to anything, you're very able to do that. Now, I know the time is short, but if you're able to make suggestions on any of this, you get them in advance of it being online, you're able to do that.
Well, again, I'm not criticizing you or anybody else, I'm just saying, for clarity, I believe we call the right-of-way policy the right-of-way policy. We don't call it the digging in our ditches also policy. We call it the right-of-way policy, and that's the name that it should go by and that should be in the
Okay.
document. I would just move that going forward, if we want to change this to rules and procedures, we can do that. And then, repost it, or we don't use this term anymore, we use the decorum. and whatever.
Decorum and procedures is what you're,
Right.
yeah. Okay.
And I think the reason it was that is because we molded it after Talty or somebody, and that's what they called it.
Okay.
So we just picked up, I don't disagree with you that that's the essence of what it does, is it talks about rules and procedures, but I think the title matters, and I think we need to be consistent, because people say, hey, I've been looking for your rules and procedures, they don't exist. That is correct. They don't exist by that name. They exist by a different name, so.
Okay, so any other comments on the proposal of limit experts to 15 minutes?
Okay, so what is it, for clarity, what is it now?
We don't have anything.
So that we would be able to extend that by, since the mayor's in control of the meeting, by the mayor extending it, or 2 members of the council, or a majority of the council extending it?
Mhm.
Okay. I'm good with it.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend the,
Public comment. Gotcha. Public comment.
okay, so do you have, well, actually, this is just the first suggestion, okay? So is there any other comment on that particular one before we take
So just-
citizens?
Okay, so that we know how this is going to go, are we going to discuss several different items?
Yes.
And then allow the citizens
Yes.
to make comment, and then we'll take a
Yes.
vote on whether or not those items are approved?
Yes.
Okay.
These,
Just ignore
yeah,
those,
they're not
throw those
helpful.
away.
Okay. I was like, they're not helpful. All right, so any other comments on that? So I think, is that something that, the other suggestion was that we move our general comments to the top of the meeting and then combine that with, to either 3 or 4 minutes to the front of the meeting to prevent disenfranchising those who don't want to wait through the entire long meeting to be able to say their general comments. And so that is something that the majority of municipalities do. They have all of their citizens speak at the top of the meeting, and they can, there is some variance on how they do that. So Jana, you can speak to this, and what is your experience?
The way that Crandall handled it was we did comments at the front of the meeting. We allowed citizens to speak on any item at the front of the meeting, and then if it came down to an item they still wanted to speak, they could. So, yes,
So with our general comments, they can speak over anything. It doesn't have to be on the agenda. Was that,
right,
okay. I misheard you.
yes. They can speak on anything they want to at the beginning of the meeting or an item on the agenda.
And then when the agenda item came up, they could speak on that as well?
Speak again, but yeah, it did take a lot of time.
So what do you think of that?
I would suggest letting everybody speak at the beginning. It allows your agenda to flow.
And you're not,
easier.
okay?
I believe, Tara, I believe Evie has done some survey, and she's prepared to talk a little bit about her survey.
Okay, so let's go ahead and take, I don't have cards to navigate there. So if you signed up, please get on deck. We have Mr. Griffin on deck, I believe. Evie's going to present some information that she has prepared.
With your permission, just
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
So Jana, back to what you were saying earlier, our current policy, the one that we're under right now, it says during the general public comments agenda items, citizens may also make comments on any items not on the posted meeting agenda, but town council members will be unable to deliberate, but may provide factual responses. Right, so it's not meant to be an interactive place in the meeting, but we can respond with factual information.
Right. Our attorney actually advised us against making comments because it could get you off the agenda topic.
Right.
So that's the only thing, when you start addressing factual comments, just make sure that you're on topic of the agenda.
So Evie has volunteered to be our clerk many, many times, and so I do, she has experience with this, so I do appreciate her effort in all of this and also her volunteerism.
Okay. I've got a 2-minute and 45-second thing, so I have to get going on it after I set the timer. Let me get that going. Evie Anderson, I live on 2434, where Spectrum is coming soon. Okay, I should have done that.
Keep going.
Okay, I think we can all agree that our town council meetings could become more streamlined and productive. While I was examining the procedures other councils follow, I also became aware of the various agendas that were used. I created this possible agenda for poetry using poetry's current agenda and Rockwall's agenda. I especially like the way Rockwall has a brief description of the various parts and a reminder of when and how someone can address the council listed throughout the agenda. I applied this concept. Also discovered that the majority of other councils have only two main times for the public to speak. One, addressing public hearing items at the time it appears on the agenda. And two, during a block of time near the beginning of the meeting called open forum, citizens' comments, citizens to be heard, hear remarks from visitors, and so on. On this possible agenda for poetry, I called this block of time to speak to the council public comments because some of our speakers are not citizens. Also created a new sign-up form for poetry. No clipboards, no note cards, no confusion. After the sign-up period, the secretary can simply gather the forms for public comment and hand them to the mayor. The order of who signed up should not matter. When it is a speaker's turn, they simply spend the allotted time addressing any agenda or non-agenda topic or topics. The secretary can organize the public hearing forms by number, since they will be addressed when it appears on the agenda. The City of Rowlett has a public handout titled Speaking at a Public Meeting. I took this idea and created a handout, Speaking at a Poetry Town Council Meeting. As you can see, it addresses signing up, speaking guidelines, rules of conduct, and helpful tips. I followed one of the helpful tips by writing down my comments to help me stay on track and hopefully complete my presentation within my time limit. I hope my information can help poetry. I know we all agree that it is important for the public to have a voice. That's why I'm up here. But I believe that this can be accomplished in a way more like other councils. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Evie.
Evie, did you check with Union Valley on theirs? They're our sister
They
city.
told me they don't ever have anybody come to the meeting, so
And
they don't have to worry about speakers.
And Crandall, did you call them?
No, I did not call Crandall. I only called the ones listed on that last page.
She'd
I
like-
called and I talked to the secretaries and I talked to the city manager at one time and sent emails back and forth.
Because so she has like 9 different cities here listed, and so she's done quite a bit of homework on her. Kudos to you for doing all that homework. Thank you, Evie. So it does show that all these have all of the, well, it looks like all 9 of them do have the speaking at the beginning of the meetings. It is timed on most of them. Most of them do not allow time for the public to speak other than that. I guess my point is that, you know, I've vacillated and really mulled this over quite a bit. You know, I love freedom of speech. I think it's important to be able to have comment. And my whole goal on this originally when I set it up, when I met with the TML attorney over the phone, is, you know, I really want good citizen engagement. But unfortunately, I don't feel like that's what we've had. I feel like it has been counterproductive for the most part. So, you know, if the Gettysburg Address was 3.5 minutes, one of the greatest speeches of all time, I feel like, you know what, should be able to get it done and then we can all go home at an earlier hour. So with that said, I guess Chad McFarland, come on up.
Yeah, is there more
Um,
topics on
No,
rules of
there's not.
procedure that was not included
I'm in,
the packet?
okay, as chair, I called you up so you can speak. Shelley, you can sit down, please. We have discussed what we're going to discuss. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Chad.
And I'm going to make a motion, but I'm not going to do it until we hear from you guys, because it might affect the motion.
Chad McFarland, 19850 FM 986. So I'm not completely sure of all the stuff that you're deliberating here, but I just want to remind the council of the importance of citizen input on the individual topics. I want to remind the council that it was a citizen that pointed out the discrepancies in the electioneering ordinance that was presented to you, or misrepresented to y'all a couple of months ago. It was my comments during the one of the budget meetings that spurred the conversation about sales tax estimate. It was originally estimated at $90,000 for the year. After I made a comment, y'all deliberated and brought it down to $15,000. So if in this town being as chaotic as it is, I think it's important that citizens are allowed to speak. It's important for y'all to have another set of eyes looking at things. And it's been obvious that the mayor has tried to limit our citizen involvement. It's amazing that I've been able to speak this long on this topic without being interrupted. So that's my say.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, Chad. Ms. Smith? Oh, okay.
I think I signed up for that.
Okay. Mr. Strauss?
Glenn Strauss, County Road 2450 for 11072. I thought you started out by saying we're trying to shorten the meetings, and it looks like we're adding a whole new section. The word chaotic was used a minute ago, and I would suggest that there's no chaos coming from you guys. The chaos is coming from people who want to create trouble and accomplish nothing. But I feel plenty informed. I don't study before I come to a meeting. I listen to you guys. I get the handouts. And I really don't want to sit through any more of what we usually have to sit through at the end of a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strauss. Shelley Smith?
Okay, I would like to say that right now it is 8:51 p.m. We've had 7 speakers for 21 minutes, and actually less than that because a lot of us didn't use our whole time. 21 minutes for a 2.5-hour meeting, and you want to shorten it. Now, before I got up here, you said there were several items that you guys were going to decide on this rules thing, and you've only mentioned one. Is there more? Are there more items on the rules thing?
2 have been mentioned so far.
Oh, 2 have been mentioned? Is there more than that?
I don't know. We're not supposed to talk.
I think you missed it, Ms. Shelley. We're talking about two items.
Oh, okay, there's only 2 items.
Mhm.
All right, 21 minutes. It's been a 2.5-hour meeting.
Okay, Mr. Griffin?
Mike Griffin, 6247 Dry Creek Run. I don't consider myself technologically literate. I do feel a little bit better after Mike Jaffe's comments. I was unable to find rules of procedures, so I was not sure what this agenda item was even going to address. I, for one, appreciate the opportunity to be able to provide my input on some agenda items, but some of the agenda items are spelled out and pretty clear in the agenda, and some others, including the current one, I can't find enough context clues to tell me what's going to be discussed. One of the questions that I have for the council is, will the citizens of the community be allowed to know what the rules of procedure are? Thank you.
Okay, so they are listed online. The resolution is listed under the meetings, but that could be listed more definitively, so noted. Okay, Mr. Patrick Smith.
I'm probably one of the few people in this room who has actually gone over to look at the official notebook for ordinances and resolutions for the town of Poetry. And even though it's not online, but it should be, there is a resolution number 2021-09-01R that includes in its title, Rules of Procedure. It says that all the rules of procedure are attached here to as Exhibit A. Pardon me. There is no Exhibit A attached. There's no Exhibit A in that whole notebook. It's signed by the mayor and sealed. That is your official Town of Poetry Rules of Procedure. So if you're going to comply with state law on the agenda, you're going to somehow tonight amend a resolution that has no substantive provisions. But I sense that's not what you're really going to do tonight, because you've learned now that in that same notebook is Resolution 2021-10-01R that talks about the decorum and policy procedures. Through a sleight of hand, the mayor's already played her hand. Oh, the terms are interchangeable. Two separate resolutions. You're going to try to amend that when it's not even properly on the agenda. And I am noticing a change in the way the Town of Poetry is running since they've hired a new law firm. I invite the members of the council, the members of the public, go look at the October 18th, 2022 agenda where it was to discuss and take action to amend the council's rules of procedure, and then it specifically identifies every single item that they were going to try to change. Tonight, we get a vague discuss and take action on the council's rules of procedure. Ambush, no advance notice, nothing in the agenda packet. This is not how a town is supposed to run in the state of Texas. I tell you, there was one truthful thing that spoke volumes to me tonight, and that was when the mayor admitted she finds citizen engagement mostly counterproductive.
Thanks, Patrick.
Okay, I think you've already, okay. Does council have any other comments?
You know, the other thing I'd point out in the decorum policy that we have, our ordinance, Tara, is it does say at the beginning, the purpose of the rules of decorum and procedure are to ensure that the town council meetings are conducted in a way that allow the business of the town to be effectively administered. And I think our attorney talked to us a little bit about that, about the difference between a council meeting and a town hall meeting. Mm-hmm. And we want to be careful about putting the two together. And then two, it says the purpose is to ensure that the members of the public who attend town council meetings can be heard in a fair, impartial, and respectful manner. And I think, you know, others have said it, we want to, in my mind, we want to kind of maintain that. I know, all due respect to Glenn, I kind of view the citizens that come here and make a lot of noise kind of like the pain response in my body. I think it's telling me something maybe isn't right. And it may just be that that person is not right, or it may be something wrong with me. But I don't think numbing the pain makes the problem go away. It just numbs the pain, right? It just makes me ignorant of the pain. So I think we need to consider continuing to let citizens have a voice, whatever that means. I would make a motion and that we table this to the next meeting. I appreciate very much what Evie has done, but I just received it. And so I'd like a little time to digest it and socialize it. And maybe it's something we could throw out on the forum now that it's public, just to get citizens buy-in, right? So that we're not coming in and making some unilateral decision. We kind of get their buy-in a little bit. Not everybody's going to agree, but they at least understand we're going to try something different, whatever that means, and here's how it is. Because I like what you've done, but I'm trying to get out of the habit of, I just got this, careful, don't smear the ink, I need you to approve it. And it's like, no, so I would move and make my motion to table this to the next regular meeting. Looking for a second.
Before I second that.
I second it.
Well, make your comment. We have a second, but make your comment.
When we move it, assuming that we're going to, I would like to explicitly state the two items that we're going to be discussing, as well as call it by the full name, the rules of decorum and procedures.
And that can be done. The idea was to leave it open so that if you had any other suggestions, that's not just limited to those, that I might come up with.
I do have a suggestion. If we're going to table this the next meeting, and I agree, there's 2 points that I think need to be emphasized. Is that one is these long 4 and 5 hour meetings are not healthy and they're not fair. They're not fair to the people at the end, and they're not healthy on us or the people in the audience. That these long, grueling meetings are wrong. What we need, in my opinion, is to set a time. Say we're not going to, and by the way, I talk to other councils too, we're not going to go past a particular time. 9:30 is 3 hours. Anybody I've talked to on a council said 3 hours? Why does it take 3 hours? That should never go that long. Well, I would say that's right, but we got to set a limit on ourselves. Say we have 3 hours, 9:30, that's a hard limit unless the council votes overwhelmingly or by a majority vote, and that we stop. And that we stop at a reasonable time. Then secondly, and to help accomplish that, I think my opinion, we need to reorder the order of the agenda so we get the critical things that need solving up at the beginning and the less critical at the end, always. And critical is defined as things that have a financial or legal implication. It needs to be discussed and resolved. We get those things at the front, and the things that aren't critical, don't have a timing limit, put those at the end. And when 3 hours is up, it's up, unless the council votes otherwise. And that's to impose a limit on ourselves, because it doesn't seem like we're able to get it done in a reasonable amount of time, and I don't think that's fair, and I certainly don't think it's healthy.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it. So
it doesn't affect my motion. Tara, the motion is still live, but I would just jump in on Tom's comments. I would propose, and I will, put this on the forum tomorrow as in business we used to call a straw man. It's like a suggestion. And then we can deliberate as a council all the way to a finished document, right, that we can then put on the agenda for next month that will have the refinements in it. It can have a time limit, because we can openly discuss it on the forum.
Right.
It's legit. Everybody can weigh in. We can get phone calls and emails and texts from people that maybe have strong feelings one way or the other. And then when we bring it back to the next agenda, it should be a done deal. I mean, we'll have a finished document we can vote on.
I like it. I like it, and I think this is why was open-ended, because we all have different viewpoints, and we didn't want to limit that. So that is new. We haven't heard that, 9:30, a time limit of 9:30. I did see one town limited it to 10 o'clock. So that is something that I think we can not just table, but I'd really like to see us discuss that on the forum. So
okay, so we have a motion and a second. Need a vote.
Who made the second?
Tom.
Okay, so we have a motion by Jaffe and seconded by Anderson to put this on the forum and then table this till next meeting. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, I think good dialogue there. All right, and thank you again, Abby. So number 9, discuss and take action on exit interview question sheet for the town secretary position. This was the draft that you have in the packet was directly, I just clipped and pasted from the public forum. I think that was Councilmember Fowler's suggestions. I did get an email in, and I will hand this out. It just came, here's a desk copy. You might have taken that over there. So, Miss Gina. And then this is from Jennifer McFarland, who is, I guess, a teacher. She said, and she used it in teaching. Some additional questions that I think were good. So, let's see. All right, we might have to share there.
So this is the agenda item.
So just additional questions. Now, again, I think Jana is hanging with us. Teresa's actually coming back. She missed us. She's coming back. She didn't want to have the full responsibility because of her health issues, but she really did miss having the interaction and she loves doing the financials, and so we need her. So we're happy to have her. So I don't know if how pertinent or how needed this is. We had the first secretary for 3 months, and her other job went full time, and then the second secretary had a key employee leave, so she couldn't no longer do a part-time extra position. And then, of course, about Amanda. I did call Amanda. She said she would be willing to do an exit interview. She worked 4 hours and then decided it wasn't. She was planning on coming back, and then she decided that I think probably the intensity, the thick skin that's needed is kind of where she didn't want to have to deal with all that, all the politics. So, but she was willing to do an exit interview. What do you all think? Now, in this, it says, I'll go ahead and read this. Exit interview, she says, describe your primary interest in this position, list the tools or support received to be successful, explain the highlights of this job, list applicable experiences, describe areas of a challenging nature, list applicable experiences, compare how the job changed from beginning to the end of your employment, compare your load compared to your salary, slash that out and put pay. Evaluate ways this job could be improved for future success. Describe an alternative which may have prevented you from leaving, ? Explain your position regarding referrals of this job to others. List applicable experiences. Explain your experience in sharing concerns. Describe ways you would create this job to include greater satisfaction.
I'd like to speak on this. Have we taken a different approach tonight where the council members that asked for it to be on the agenda, that they don't get to own the point? Is that new tonight?
No,
Okay. So I posted this on the forum. There was some conversation on the forum. You said you pulled this off the forum, but I didn't see any of your communications on the forum. So I was curious why you had so much. A lot of these questions that Ms. McFarland had sent, she emailed me as well. They're all good questions, and this was just a starting point. The questions I put on there, a lot of these are similar and just written different, but there wasn't much communication except for, yeah, I'm good with it. And the reason that I asked for this questionnaire is because I hope Janice stays forever. But for some reason, in our short time, we're not able to retain our employees, and I think that takes a deeper look into how can we improve that position. Are we misadvertising it? Which I'm not accusing us of any of these. These are self-reflections and what a good operating business or government should do. So, are we misadvertising it? Are we so far below the pay scale that it's not going to work? Are the cramped conditions that you're stuck in, so this is truly a reflection, and how can these people assist us in making this position better? So like I said, on the forum, there wasn't a lot of conversation, more of a, yeah, let's move forward, and I think we should send this to every even Amanda with 4 hours of work experience, I think maybe she could tell us something as well.
One of the reasons I didn't respond further on the forum is because it didn't seem like what I was communicating was getting through, so I thought I'd wait and have a discussion about it. But I wasn't saying that you were trying to rock the boat, or anybody was trying to rock the boat. I'm saying that professional recruiters and et cetera will tell most people, don't complete an exit interview because it might rock the boat in your situation, not here. So, myself personally, I wouldn't complete an exit interview, but I'm not opposed to us presenting it, and everybody has an option to either answer it or not.
Well, then we need to do a self-reflection and answer these questions for ourselves. We have to make some kind of change, or evaluate and say, no change is needed, we've just had bad luck. But I think we owe the citizens in this council a review of what we're doing.
That's true. I would add, and we've discussed doing something in executive, which I think is the most fair and will probably yield best results for interviewing, because to Brian's point, people don't like filling these out, and it is more or less commonly known in business that you either give some really pat answers or you don't answer. But it's less formal if it's verbal. If it's written, they keep it as a company document, most of the time forever, and other employees or other employers can look at that and reference it, and they can be trouble. If we do something verbal, then it's not as much pressure. But of course, if we do something verbal and it's on camera, then it's just as bad. So something in executive session, which is an employee review, which is how we should do it anyways, I think should be primary. But I say, sure, let's take a shot at doing some written too. I don't think, it's always going to be opted for, but I mean, no harm asking.
So Terry, since you kind of started the conversation on this back when, I mean, what is your proposal? What would you have us do?
I would like to see a list of questions that council feels are fair, or the council to tell me, no, Terry, I think you're way off on this deal. But if the council can agree to a set of questions that would help us maybe define the position and retain the position, and then mail it to them. I don't think, to Simeon's point, yeah, a verbal interview is the best, but I don't think we're gonna have that ability now that, I don't think they're gonna come up here for a special meeting to tell us this stuff. So I think we attempt with a written document, and if we get the pat answers, enough of us have seen these that we're going, yeah, that's your typical answer. But it's the attempt, right? We're attempting to be better every day that we're up here, and I think this is how we start.
Yeah, in business, we used to call that TQM back in the day, total quality management, right? Where you're constantly feeding back in. So I would ask you here and now, if you're willing, to sort of pick out some questions and let's start the process and see how it goes. I mean, we've discussed it on the forum. We can give it another go if you want to get some more input, but.
I'm just concerned that I don't have a problem with assessing where we've been, but I do have to say that the job that we currently have for the state secretary may not be the same job exactly as it was a year ago, because we've developed and we've grown. So I know that, the first 6 months of the job, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, it's like having a term paper due once a month that's 40 to 100 pages long. I've got to start weeks earlier. And so kind of figured that out. And so Jana is an experienced city secretary with a degree in management of a public management degree. So having the right person in that job is going to make all the difference. If you have a city secretary that's never even been a secretary, she's, been a tutor at a college, then that's just not maybe the right fit. I mean, the city secretary job is a very unique position. Jana is the first person we've ever had who actually is even, served in that position.
I think that could be revealed through the questions as well,
Sure.
if somebody
Yeah.
answers them.
Yeah.
Well, I think, I'd give the council and you, Tara, the benefit of the doubt that when we read them, we're going to put it in the context of the circumstance and the times and all that. If they say, well, your bookkeeping isn't up to snuff, well, okay, back then it wasn't. So I would expect you to observe that, if they were willing to say. And so I don't think it hurts. I wouldn't want us to publish this as any
Well, I
kind
don't
of
think legally we
public record.
can.
I would want it to be kept to the council so that we can improve you know, the council and the town's performance over time, not to put out there so people could, you know, turn it into bullets and shoot us with it.
Well, employment law forbids you from doing that. We can't do that.
Yeah, well, that's good.
I mean, we just
Got that.
can't. So, I mean, it could provided some good feedback. I'm not sure how, you know, helpful it'll be, but I'm open to that. But I like to, again, like to move forward, not backward. But, so, if you're agreeable to, is there any of these questions on here or these statements on here that you think should be amended?
Well, you know what? I was actually running off of a different document than that. I was given the one with 5 questions up here, which I actually like more than the one you have in front of you there. Yeah, it was.
Those are the ones from the forum? Yeah, that's from the forum.
Yeah, from the forum, and I would change the verbiage of 1, and then I would add 3 myself, because I looked at, you know, I've done some myself, but I also looked at Glassdoor, Indeed, and a few other sites and kind of picked through what they suggest, and, you know, most of them aren't applicable, and that's what I'll say, is that depending on the field, some of them are applicable, some of them aren't, and that's the reason I don't like as much the ones you were given there, Tara. But a couple that I'd add is, and they're all open-ended because I think it's necessary. You know, you want to give some leniency, and the other ones are a little more strict, is what did you like best and least about the job? Very open-ended and more or less kind of forces them to answer in a way that isn't just yes or no, which is some of the other questions. The next one, less open-ended, how did you feel about the management in the town? That's super basic. Everybody asks about the management. That's one of the biggest deals. So, you know, how they interacted with not just the mayor, but us as well, because the secretary interacts with all of us. And then I would also add at the end, is there anything else you'd like to add? Because we can't cover everything in the questions. You might as well have something open so that if somebody has something in mind, they can throw it to us.
Okay.
So one other thing I was sitting here thinking is there any way or any need to have them do it anonymously, mail them without a return address? I mean, whatever's going to give us our best answers, right? You made the point that you don't like to look backwards, but in this situation, I think it's pertinent. You know, if we don't aim for anything, we won't hit anything. So, if they can give us one bit of advice that we go, aha, that's big. I want to hear it. So, is there any reason for an anonymous reply to us? I don't think it could be done by email because that's obviously public information. But do we send them a self-addressed envelope and tell them to put it in there and send it back?
That might work for previous secretaries, of
Well,
course,
yeah,
going
moving
forward.
I would think we'd have verbal.
Sure,
We don't have that many. We're going to be able to figure out who it is, I think.
Yeah.
exactly.
It'll be very anonymous.
One
Yeah, I'm
secretary
not-
leaves,
I
one
think
anonymous
I think
letter
we just
comes
take our
in.
chances, Terry. Some people are going to be more forthcoming than others, and that's just that. You know,
That's
we
fair.
can't require it because they're not our employee
No.
anymore. We just, if they give us, as you said, 1 or 2 nuggets, we'll build on those nuggets and go. You know, I don't think the expectation that they need to answer these 6 because they won't. You know, so let's
Okay, is
try
this-
it, and then we'll. You know, I feel like we're kind of shooting it down, and we haven't even put it in the water yet. Let's go ahead and put it in the water and see if it floats and figure it out.
Is this something that we could refine on the public forum? I mean, you've added some things. What's your thought?
Make a motion on Terry's behalf.
On Terry's behalf.
So, I mean, I like some of Simeon's
these?
suggestions. Did you want to
Okay.
go ahead and, do you all want to approve Simeon's list and we can get this done?
Because it's Terry's plus yours. So
Right.
it's-
Right.
It's inclusive.
Okay,
I could just read it out if
Okay.
y'all wanted.
let's do that.
To approve this document that lists questionnaires for the secretary as an exit interview. The first question being, was there any specific reason for your resignation? The second being, what was your expectation for the position? Was it advertised fairly and accurately? 3 being, did you have access to our financial software, QuickBooks, Excel, bank records, etc.? If so, did you see any area for improvement? Number 4 being, did you see any areas we could
Guys, you
improve
can't talk.
in as a town? 5 being, did we provide you the tools and equipment necessary to complete your job to the best of your ability? 6 being, what did you like best and least about the job? 7 being, how did you feel about the management in the town? And 8 being, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Second.
Okay, do we have any citizens that wanted to speak regarding this topic?
Oh, yes, of course.
Abby, do you have any citizens that signed up to speak on the exit interview?
Well, let's see.
I don't see anybody on deck, so I'm assuming no.
Nobody's jumping up,
Okay.
so I'm saying no.
All right, so I assume no.
Before we vote, Brian asked me the question, what was the purpose of number 3? Do you have access to our financial software, QuickBooks, Excel, bank records? And they asked me what my reason was for that. And just as Jenna has brought so much in on this, have they seen something that we should do better? Maybe how we organize our bills, or how we organize this, and how it aligns on our Excel sheet? That was the point of that.
Or even what software modules we should be using,
Sure.
right?
Well, and that was the reason that I asked that question, because that's a yes or no question. Did you have access? Yes. It doesn't give us anything beyond that.
Do you see any areas of for improvement?
So there's only one secretary, and that was Teresa, who even worked with the QuickBooks for 3.5 months, so I'm not sure it's pertinent. Well, I mean, Amanda did work on, she entered some checks. I'll take that back. Amanda entered some checks for us the day she was here.
See, Simeon, what was your number 7? I liked your 3, I just didn't get number 7.
Number 7 is, how did you feel about the management in the town?
Did they like us?
More or less.
Okay, so
Motion and second?
is there a motion to accept Simeon's sheet?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the motion.
Okay,
I
all right, and you
seconded.
seconded it.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion by Simeon White, seconded by Jaffe, to accept the red sheet of questions. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. I need to get that.
Yeah, I'll type it
Okay.
up and
All
edit
right,
it, send
thank
it,
you.
all that good stuff.
I don't have all that. All right, moving on. Number 10, discuss and take action on proposal to promote Farmer Rancher of the Year Award in our area. We talked last time about trying to do some things to promote agriculture. We have, many of us, have highlighted, we want to keep it country. We want to promote agriculture and farming. Well, I think this is a tangible, proof of that. Potentially. So the Texas Farm Bureau will give scholarships and different things to try and promote agriculture in our area. And a lot of us love our ranches and farms, and we want to keep it that way. And so if we want to encourage the next generation, a little notoriety doesn't hurt. Some people really like that. Some people don't, but some people, that means a lot to them. So in this proposal, it says the purpose is to promote agriculture in the Poetry area and highlight what local farmers, ranchers are doing. And who is residents of Poetry and the Poetry ETJ. The method, submission of a 200 to 300 word essay by either nominee or friend, family member of the nominee from March 1st through March 31st of each year. Council and mayor would vote on the nomination they believe is worthy of the annual award. The time is given in the month of May each year. Exclusions, of course, would be the current council, the current mayor, and their immediate family members. The prizes would include an article in the Poetry Post online website highlighting accomplishments, a plaque which would be donated, an embroidered shirt which says Farmer of the Year in the year that it's given, and then maybe a yard sign which rotates each year it's donated, and potentially other prizes as solicited from businesses.
And you, in your opening there, you said supporting youth and everything. I didn't see that there was an age restriction on it. Was that an oversight, or do you want to leave it open? What are you thinking?
I wanted to kind of hear from council. I did kind of mull that over a little bit. Is like, okay, do we want to have maybe someone 10 and up, 12 and up? But I think it could be 10 to 100, maybe potentially. So it wouldn't be restricted, to any age particularly. But if you've got a 10-year-old that's a great ranch hand and he needs to be highlighted, I think that would encourage him in to continue that. We have some amazing people in our midst. But again, if you have a 75-year-old who's working it and, winning awards with his hay crop or, with his cattle or any number of things, I think that could also be highlighted. And I would love to hear just some of the stories about what they actually are doing. I think an essay would be a beautiful way to hear, from, and it is a family member or friend oftentimes who notices it. And so I think it could bring us together, and it could provide some, needed unity, and it could be highlighting the skill. We have a tremendous skill, and I don't want the next generation to lose that skill. So I think it could be a way of reinforcing that, maybe.
I know that there was one preteen in the area that was very accomplished in roping and won several awards and everything, that kind of thing. But then we also have people who may want to bring back vetch, on a large scale, which I think is also something that is noteworthy. But do they stack evenly against each other? So should there be like a teen and below, or a teen? Should there be two? So that we can differentiate between what an adult can accomplish with a farm versus what a teen can accomplish in 4-H, that kind of thing? Or should it all be put into one? Or should we be focusing less on the adults, more on the teens, if our goal is to inspire the next generation? So these were just questions that came up. I wanted to discuss with the council.
No, those are good questions. I don't know. I think there's some amazing youngsters out there, but there's also some amazing seniors. So I didn't really want to define it necessarily, because if you have a compelling essay about a 12-year-old or maybe you have a compelling essay about a 60-year-old, and the council would have to weigh that. And, I don't know. But that's just one view. So maybe you have a different view on that.
What is the timing thing, Tara? You picked March and May, is that?
I did that because in May, of course, every other year in our town, the council's sworn in, so I thought that might be a good, since there's already going to be a presentation of some sort, that would lend itself to that time of year for a presentation. Hey, Farmer Rancher of the Year, by the way, we're swearing in the new council.
See ya.
That's the only reason for that timing, is we're already going to have a judge or somebody swearing in the new council, and at that time there would be a grouping, a gathering, instead of having to do a whole nother one of that to present a plaque, and it just seemed like it made sense to do it at the same time. Now, there typically has been a spring festival that time of year too. So in the off year, then there's also a spring festival. So not that it has to be, but I thought it lent itself pretty easily since it's already an event happening.
It's not exactly to this, and I appreciate you putting this together. And in fairness to you, I have not provided anything since the last meeting, so I don't want it to come at it wrong. But, the things that come to my mind that I think would be interesting a little bit to this topic, one, to the point of encouraging young people that want to get into farming and ranching, right? The FFA programs and things like Farm Bureau and the county agents do, where they have these scholarships for young people wanting to go in. And it's, $500 or $1,000. It's not a lot of money, but it helps these kids to kind of get in, because I think to talk to somebody that's 70 or 80 or 90 years old, or even my age, about farming, it's like, well, that's interesting, but you're going to be dead soon. How much are you going to pass on, versus if we can encourage. But the other is, a conversation Kevin and I had years ago, just kind of a casual conversation about something to promote the farmers and ranchers in the area, just kind of getting together every once in a while and just sharing ideas on, hey, have you seen armyworms, or are you having any issues in your cattle, or have you had any blackleg lately, or how are the sale barns going? Just something to kind of give us a way to share information, maybe and it could be extended, I think, even to the youth as well, to encourage. And of course, if non-farming and ranching people wanted to come and be a part of that, they could.
No, that's a good idea.
It would be, I don't know, I think, and I'm not your candidate for this, this is like way out of my comfort zone. If you put a sign in front of my house, I'd mess up, because it's like, oh great, the IRS is going to come in and audit me or something, because I do farm and ranch and I make a lot of my income from it. But I don't know, I wouldn't want a lot of like notoriety. If you
Well-
need me to help you with your tractor or plow your
Right.
field, I'll do that, but.
Well, it's not just the notoriety. I think one of, and it's not just the, because there's FFA, there's 4-H, there's all the things that do encourage the young. I think if you've got a youngster who can see someone receiving a Rancher of the Year award, maybe they're in their 60s, and they see, oh my goodness, see what they've done, that's inspiring in itself. So I just wanted to stretch the gamut and say, not, it doesn't have to be a younger person, it doesn't have to be an older person, but just, is there an inspiring story among us? Is there a citizen who is really has a story worth repeating, a story worth sharing? And so I think that can build a sense of community. And so it's not just about the awards. It's not just about the notoriety. It's about how can we get to know one another and know what each other is doing. If you have 5 submissions, then you hear about 5 stories and 5 families. And so going forward, I think that's a beautiful thing. And
But
if we do that every
Are those
year.
entries going to be published? All of the respondents
Well-
are going to be, or is it just the 5 of us that are going to know their story?
Well, we could put it in the packet, and that would be for all to read, or, any number of ways. Maybe we list all the submissions, and then the prize winner, you highlight, and they get the prizes. So it's open. I mean,
Well, and I guess the reason for asking is if you take the prize and the sign out, I would absolutely, and this isn't a threat or a wagering in any way, but I would definitely get behind if we want to, like, once a quarter, highlight some farmer or rancher in the community that's willing to be highlighted and put it in the Poetry Post or put it out on the website, something that just talks about, hey, look forward to next month, we're going to interview, Bob the cow guy, and Bob's going to give us, somebody that's willing to talk about it and share. And I think that would be really interesting. That would be of value to me, and I would even consider participating. I don't know, the whole sign-in contest thing just feels, I don't know.
I like that too. I'm hearing good things. Even Tara was saying the highlighting them. I think that would be a good step. Now, I'm not an author or very literate. I'm illiterate. I'm not very literate. We need somebody like Vincent, but I think quarterly highlights, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so I think
and then
the
to
harder-
Vincent's point, I think we come around and we support ag by the youth, and I would be glad to donate scholarships. And there's nothing to say that those highlights can't be youth and adults in the same quarterly highlight. But
Yeah, somebody getting started or somebody towards the middle or end of their career. But
I'd be more than willing, and we'd have to write some kind of, I guess, qualifications, but yeah, a kid in 4-H or FFA that has some kind of project, it can be a welding project, through their 4-H group or a pig or sheep or whatever, but yeah, I would like to see the highlights. There's a lot of, the man right there can tell us stories all day about how he's seen the farming change in this, and I think those quarterly highlights would be really neat, but I think I would be more in support of a scholarship, and I would donate, and I think most adults would say, yeah, I don't want the notoriety. I want to see the kids.
But I think, I wouldn't want the notoriety, but I don't mind telling the story.
Right, exactly.
I'm not an expert on anything, but I've done a few things like some of the others have, and I wouldn't mind sharing the parts that I think might help somebody, starting
Well,
out.
and
So I think the heart of what you're trying to do, I love. I'm just not, the contest part just
Okay.
kind of weirds me out.
And that's not set in stone. I'm glad we're having this conversation, and this is why this is on the table. So, I like the idea of a quarterly highlight. How do we solicit entries for that? Maybe we
I think
just,
nominations. just like that.
Nominations, yeah,
Okay.
there's people send in nominations, and the person can decline or accept.
And then we can have some
Have someone
sit-down
write.
interview with them.
Sure. Brian's gonna be retired, Brian's a writer.
Brian will be retired, he's the author.
Brian's gonna be writing his own books, though.
You'll
so,
have some
I mean,
time.
I don't want it to turn into something where, when I'm writing the post, I have to come up with the, content. I want someone who cares about that person, who nominates them to, or maybe the person themselves, they have a knowledge to share that would be amazing for the rest of us to glean from.
This might be a good one to offload to the citizens. I mean, surely we have some writers in the community, people that are good with a pen or a computer and could work this, and I'm not proposing that you would be the one running this, you got plenty on your plate, but I think the concept, and I think offering it out to a citizen that could help us with this would be great.
Okay, so how many of you would prefer it to be some sort of award or scholarship given for a youth, maybe?
Well,
under
yeah,
25?
I'd have to say, I'm much more interested in the youth and making it more generic, not farmer rancher, but agriculture. Because there's people, kids maybe raise bees or whatever, that have an interesting story to use the land. It's basically, you know, have the
They're a
land,
bee
what
farmer.
do they do? And in the youth, whether it's through FFA or whatever it is what is it that they're doing? That would be, to me, more interesting. And actually, and I think it would highlight them because you're encouraging, you know, kids or youth to do things agriculturally oriented. And it's not just farming and ranching, but it's anything that's agriculturally oriented. Raising flowers or, you know,
Well,
sunflower
as someone who
seeds.
raises flowers is a flower farmer. My father was a flower farmer.
I'm just
so-
saying, it's agriculture is to me more appealing and youth is more appealing.
Well, to your point, there are facets of ag that most people don't even know exist, like bees and things. I mean, people like,
Well, sure, you can
they
get
know
a,
somebody's got bees, but they don't know that's a form of
but you can get an egg exemption for it.
Well, yeah, monarch butterflies. If you promise to put out flowers, you can get a monarch butterfly grant. So, you know, there's lots of options.
Yeah, well,
I'm all for supporting youth,
Or
but
people raise-
again, Lon probably has more knowledge in, you know, one finger than I'm gonna accumulate for the rest of my life. I would love to hear stories from somebody with his amount of experience. You
So
know,
we need a writer who can maybe solicit some of these articles, and then we just have them in a queue. So if we get four quarters in a year, and say, hey, I need 4 articles, we'll pick a season for each person for what you're saying. I think that's a tremendous idea.
Let's solicit nominations through the website. People can just throw in names. Let's put a little pop-up or something up there,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
nominations for this, and then we'll go find somebody to assign it to.
We can solicit Ann maybe to have the kids interview them at the school and
Yeah.
wrap the paper.
There you go.
Possibility.
All right, so as far as is the proposal for the award, you're thinking it may be a scholarship? How much are you thinking?
I don't know, we can I mean, I would donate to it. I'm all for supporting.
So what ages then? Like, would it be like,
But do we want to encumber the quarterly stories with a scholarship, or is that 2 different things?
I think we're talking
think
about two
it's two
different
different
things.
I don't think
Yeah.
they're, because Lon doesn't need a scholarship, but he might be willing to tell stories of, you know, farming and
Right.
ranching.
Yeah. So you're thinking the scholarship an annual thing or quarterly?
Why don't, I would move that let's try to reconcile what began with a contest and now maybe has moved over to a quarterly
Highlight,
highlighting a local ag person, whether it's, you know, welding, bees, whatever, I don't care how wide it is. And let's solve that, and then I think in a separate time, we can talk about
And we can move the scholarship idea to, I mean, it could be in the fall. It doesn't have to be May.
Yeah, I think some of us are just showing where our heart is, but we don't need to reconcile that tonight. Let's
Of
do
course,
the
if-
quarterly highlight, because to me, that's
Okay.
just a restatement of your contest.
All right, I'm good with that.
And I think, just when we do move forward, Tara, let's try to, if we do a scholarship, let's try to keep it, early summer, so if they're going into college.
Right.
Yeah, we
They'll
gotta
have those
time
funds
it.
available.
So maybe we
or a
bring it,
technical
yeah,
school.
right.
So
No,
maybe
that's a good.
June, we discuss it,
Okay,
or maybe
in
before that, so
June.
we can get it together.
Okay, so we might have to talk about it a little bit more in the forum and then bring it back next month so that we could get it to someone before
And you
they
have an
need it.
agriculture business where you have a platform to ask people what they think,
that's
would
true.
they be willing to donate to a scholarship program?
That's true.
The scholarships I've seen are not a lot. They're $1,000 or
But if,
$1,500.
but if a lot of citizens said, yeah, I'll give $20 and it adds up to
Right.
$3,000.
But I mean, we're not trying to
then we
raise
can have three.
$100,000. We're
Yeah, no,
we're
exactly.
raising
What we
1,000
can.
or 2,000.
Just,
No, I like it, so we've kind of morphed into 2 different things, and that's perfectly fine, but we'll bring back next month, it looks like, some sort of scholarship program for agriculture, and then we can do a quarterly highlights, and then we'll solicit nominations. So I like it, we're promoting agriculture in our area, so that's the goal.
And again, both of those are good topics for the forum. we can throw it out there and start discussing it a little bit.
Okay, was there any citizens to speak on this?
No.
Okay, I guess we can move on. Okay, number 11, discuss and take action on the P and Z subcommittee. So the two council members who are on that subcommittee, do you want to say something, or?
Well, did we get
We
citizen
didn't get any
comments?
setup on this, so
For
some of us
last-
are blind.
There
you-
were no citizen comments. on
There
the
were
last one.
no.
Okay,
Yeah,
just
there
making
were
sure.
none. Yeah, I'd asked her, so there were none. Mhm.
I just have a problem with the word subcommittee because there's not a committee that they're a sub of. I mean, it's the P and Z committee, not commission, but committee. So
Well, the one,
Well,
Councilmember
that's-
Simeon had said subcommittee, so I,
There is some confusion about that, and I think that's part of the reason this got brought up is because we've received, I'm not going to say a legal warning, but the closest thing to it that this being P and Z subcommittee, yeah, it's not a committee of anything, but if it's a P and Z committee, that means it needs to be in open forum, and that means that every single time they've met, it's a violation. It's also, the only other thing that it could be is a board of adjustments, which follow the same rules, and they're really not. So it's hard to describe what they are.
so I think they're an ad hoc that is meant to, they have provided some good, valuable research on the comprehensive plan and that kind of thing. So, but I think, and we're so grateful for the volunteers who have served on that and who have done tremendous research on that. And so, but following our legal advice, I think that is going to be sunsetted. So, is there any other discussion?
So is that the intent of this agenda item, is to sunset the committee?
I believe so.
Okay. And reform it as necessary for?
As later on as necessary, yes.
I think that should be looked at by the next council, because we sure don't want, this is a big, big topic, and we don't want this council to try to push it any farther than it already is. We want citizens to get their votes, get to elect who they want, and that council to institute any more P and Z or anything to do with it. It's too big for a council that's old to try and push it through, in my opinion. So I think once there's a new council, that is a good time to revisit it.
So do we have public comment?
Do we have two comments? Okay, Chad McFarland.
Bruce is gone.
Chad McFarland, 19850 FM 986. I just want to say I agree with Councilman White 100%. This needs to be pushed off. We've got an election in a couple of months. Could be, a lot of y'all aren't sitting there in a couple of months. So it's huge. It needs to be pushed off. Let the people vote. Let us vote on hopefully some new representatives, and then it can be decided if zoning is even needed.
Thank you, Chad.
Thanks, Chad.
Anyone else?
Lon?
Did Lon sign up? Miss Evie, did Lon sign up? He hasn't signed up to speak. I'm sorry, Lon. Lon, you haven't signed up to speak.
Y'all know, I ain't no public speaker.
Lon,
But
I'm
we
so
started
sorry.
this thing out, we was gonna stay country.
Lon, I'm sorry, you didn't sign up to speak.
I need to do what?
I'm so sorry, but you didn't sign up to speak, and I can't show favoritism. You're not able to speak if you didn't sign up. I'm so sorry, but you didn't sign up with Miss Evie to speak tonight.
So the citizens ain't gonna get to speak.
Well, the rules are
That's
that
what we
you
just
si-
got done talking about.
No, the rules are that, and for the last 21 months, the rules have been that you have to sign up to speak, and so I can't show favoritism. I'm so sorry. I
know
can't.
you are.
If you
I'm
haven't
sure
signed
you
up to speak, and Miss Evie is the clerk, and I'm so sorry, but you have to sign up to speak before to be able to speak.
I think Glenn.
So,
Is that it?
is that it for this pass? He's going to pass. Okay. All right.
Motion to sunset current P and Z committee or subcommittee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jaffe, seconded by Vincent to sunset.
Hang on, so that is a question. Can me and Simon vote on that?
I believe we can.
Okay.
So to sunset this committee, all those in favor?
What does sunset mean?
They're done.
Stop doing it.
It's over, okay.
Committee is
Dissolved.
Suspended, okay.
I would just say
I like
that I
the
would
word
like the
disband.
information that was generated
Dissolved.
retained.
Or dissolved, that's
Sure.
clear, okay.
We have it, yeah. Okay, so it was a motion by Jaffe, Councilmember Benson, seconded. All those in favor?
Mayor,
And that-
can I have a clarification on that motion, please? Motion to,
The motion to dissolve
To
the,
dissolve,
to dissolve the,
disband, sunset, whatever the term is, the P and Z subcommittee to be reformed at a future date as needed.
thank you.
okay, and that passes unanimously. Okay, under general public comments, I think that's pretty, yep, general public comments, Chad McFarland.
Chad McFarland, 19850 FM 986. Real quick, Jody Vickers has agreed, or has stated that he would be willing to do the septic for $7,500 with no donation. So that'd be a net of $3,000 higher than what was shown. On another subject, I want to expand a little bit on the comments that I made last week about the recent meeting regarding the interlocal agreement with Kaufman County. One of the multiple objections that Tara raised to my presence at this meeting, after she was informed by the county attorney that my presence was okay, she stated that she was uncomfortable with my being there because we are often on opposite sides of the issues. As far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the roads, there's only one side. One of the reasons that I wanted to be at this meeting was that if Poultry was truly receiving an unfair deal from Kaufman County, as Tara had stated in a prior meeting, I wanted to see it for myself. Because if you haven't figured it out yet, I'm not afraid of voicing my displeasure to elected officials. So I did share the video of last week's council meeting with Commissioner Barber. Tara, I believe the words he used to describe your comments after my speech were somewhat disturbing. He had expressed the desire to come to tonight's meeting to speak, but unfortunately his schedule did not allow it. So hopefully we can hear some comments from him in the future. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jack Sinkovich? Kevin Sinkovich? You passing? Shelley Smith, I think she's left. Patrick Smith, I think they've left. Glenn Strauss? Pass. Mike Griffin? I'm sorry, you
Not in our
can't.
policy, it says we can't.
Yeah, it says we can't do that. Okay, so the time right now is 9:46. Meeting adjourned.